Blake Middleton, the first one up. I think that's 2 shows in a row, Julia. From the land of the 10,000 lakes, Ed Worley saying cheers, everyone, from down in SoCal near our guest Andy Rose. Christopher Gillingham in Leamington with Jane. Thierry DeYoung also down in SoCal.
Rick Bannerow.
Yeah, Bannerow's on, and where's he, in Connecticut?
Yep.
We got Ryman in Cape Town. Hello, Ted. Bob Walker in North Texas. It's still hotter than a witch's something in Wichita Falls, Texas, he says. As we welcome all of you to today's show, number 725, our special guest Andy Rose, the Gov Cup guru, joining us in a few minutes. Let's get this one across the starting line. Denise Peterson checking in from Annapolis, headed to California on Monday, no doubt to go to the 57th edition of the Governor's Cup and watch her son Jeffrey, our Fozy, compete, maybe three-peat. Peter Taylor, New York City. Hello to you, Peter. Thanks for your photo submission just before we went to air. Ed Worley, long live the 12s. He loves this. He was with Newport Harbor Yacht Club's America's Cup Syndicate, 87.
I still love it.
You love the 12s too?
Yep.
Clark Chapin checking in from Plymouth, Michigan, getting ready for the Interlake Nationals next week at Hoover Sailing Club down in Columbus while we're doing Gov Cup down in Newport Beach. It's courageous, close to Andy's heart. Andy, I hope you love this. I hope you love this run-in too. Do you like those 12s?
Yeah, I sort of do.
Andy Rose joining us in a sec. Gov Cup Guru live via Zoom today from Newport Beach, California. Welcome, everybody. Show number 725. This is the 19th of July, and I am headed down next week to join Andy to help put on the Gov Cup, at least the television part of it. Julia, I trust you are well.
I am.
Is Mr. Biden still in the race?
It still is.
It's an interesting political situation here in the States, but we're here to talk about sailing, not politics, live from Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club, the Tom and Julia Show, and today with our dear friend Andy Rose joining us in a moment. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, whether you are live or whether you're watching in replay. Hamish Ross, good morning from a very wet Tomorrowland down in Auckland, New Zealand, where presumably Auckland, unless he's out at his batch, where it's Saturday morning down under. Ted Ryman says Julia is looking very glam.
Wow. Thank you, Ted.
You're bright anyway, Julia.
Yeah.
Greg Phillips, greeting from the Gold Coast of Oz. If Andy has a favorite country other than the U.S., it'll be Australia. We'll have to ask him about that, Julia.
Okay.
And because he, of course, raced for Australia in the America's Cup.
Yes.
Famously. And anybody else checking in will say hi to Graham Sweeney in Yell in Shetland, Scotland. Julia looks like a refreshing glass of sangria.
Gosh, that sounds good. I wish I did.
Look at the smile. I got a smile from Andy. Hi, everybody. We got a terrific show today, but before we get into that for a sec, our usual pre-show banter here. Julia, what are we celebrating today?
Oh, it looks like chess.
It is chess. And why are we celebrating International Chess Day on a sailing show?
Because there must be a connection.
There is a connection. Blake Middleton saying Ted is 100% correct about Julia's great look today.
Wow, you guys.
Chris Shepard is also checking in and saying hello to Andy. Must be a friend of Andy's here. We don't often see Chris on the show, but welcome, Chris. Here's the connection. The origins of chess go back to the 600s, apparently, A.D. Chris chess, originally known as, how do you say that, chaturanga,
Sounds like it.
is believed to have been invented in northern India. Modern chess evolved through the 1500s. The queen and the bishop movement was solidified, but it was, guess what, Julia?
Oh, wow.
1851.
Well, isn't that interesting?
And the coincidence, of course, the first international chess tournament takes place in London, making the beginning of competitive chess at a high level, which, of course, is the same time that the America's Cup got underway, AC0 as I call it. The first international chess tournament was held in London, 1851. The tournament took place during the,
Great exhibition.
which of course, as did the America's Cup, and would serve as a guide for future international chess tournaments that would follow it. Hamish Ross is saying, Julia for president. James Powell, greetings from the North Atlantic off Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Hello, James. Hope you're having a good cruise or a good race, whatever it is. And that is why we are celebrating today. Happy International Chess Day. And as always, we like to celebrate you, our FOSI, those of you who've been on the show, those of you who are regular viewers, and especially those of you who are patrons via Patreon.com. Join us, give us a few bucks a month, as many of you do. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, which helps keep our studio on the air. Helps keep us fitted and equipped so that I can take some of this equipment down and help Andy with Gov Cup next week. We're going to have a blast down there. It's going
I
to be
know.
a terrific regatta. You want to go?
I do.
It'd be tough. It'd be a tough week moving you around down there, Julia. But your spirit will be with us.
I'll remind you.
As will all the FOSI. We're going to do our regular live show on Tuesday, and then we've got 10 live shows in 6 days next week, our usual Gov Cup format. And it is Road to the Governor's Cup is today's show. We're going to get right into it because Andy is very busy as the chair of the Gov Cup steering committee. He's got a lot on. And he's got a terrific field. He and the committee, the selection committee, have done a bang-up job this year with the sailors that are coming. 8 of the 12 are returnees. 5 of the 12 are aging out, meaning they're right up against the 23-year-old age limit. Bravo Zulu to Balboa Yacht Club. To all concerned, and please welcome our esteemed guest and longtime friend, former America's Cup sailor, 2-time winner of the Gov Cup, Andrew Rose. Welcome,
Good
Andrew.
afternoon, Tom and Julia.
I trust you're well.
I am.
Lovely to see you.
Any hot tips before we get going? You're down to Newport Beach. What's the weather going to look like next week?
Not great.
Oh, really? What's the deal?
Probably a fairly light air series. We've had a very weird year down here. A lot of rain early, in the January, February, and March. And then April, I think we got 3 or 4 days of sun. May became like June. I think we had maybe 1 or 2 days of sun. And this is the 2nd or 3rd day here with no sun again. So what that basically is, the inland is very hot and the ocean temperature hasn't caught up. So we're getting the marine layer and it just hangs in. And sometimes by about 4:30, you'll get, 45 minutes of sun and then it comes in again.
So June gloom
is extended.
persists into July.
Persists. And so the forecasts are for around 10 knots every day. I think in the morning it'll be less than that, but I don't think we're going to have any of the 18 knot stuff, which is fun to watch.
Well,
But it'll be fun to watch anyway. The racing, the neat thing about these boats is that you can actually have a competitive race in as little as 4 or 5 knots. They've got a lot of sail area, they're light, et cetera. So, we're going to have a really good series.
The esteemed Alan Andrews, past Commodore of Balboa Yacht Club and a very well-known naval architect, designed these boats at your request. You raised the money, or you and a bunch of other people, but you led that fundraising charge. And now the club owns what? Are there a dozen of these boats?
Yeah, there are 12 of them, and actually the foundation that we use owns the boats. But there are 12 of them, and they've proven to be everything that we ask for. I'm a partner, as you know, Tom, in a 50-foot Alan Andrews design, and he's done a lot of great work over the years. I think this may be his best design. The boats are just amazing.
Well, the kids love the boats too. And every year we hear from them about how these are such great match racing boats, but just plain fun to sail. And we're delighted to have such a competitive fleet in your with your leadership in the hands of Balboa Yacht Club for next week's event. There is a shot of Balboa Yacht Club in Marina del Rey in Costa del Mar, not even CDM, just across the harbor from Newport Harbor Yacht Club in a yachting hotbed, a sailing hotbed known as Newport Beach. There, of course, is the esteemed Gov Cup trophy. Tell us about the history, if you would, Andy, of that trophy.
Sure, I should mention that Bahia Corinthian Yacht Club is just down the street from us.
And you did some junior sailing there, didn't you, a few years ago?
I was the former junior commodore of the Bahia Corinthian Yacht Club. The only time I ever wanted to be on a flag list. The Governor's Cup. Chet Purcell and Glee Purcell, his wife, are parents of my longtime, since junior high friend and boat partner, Tom Purcell. Chet was invited to go watch the Congressional Cup, which started 2 years before the Governor's Cup, and was very impressed with it and thought, well, we ought to do something similar for my son and his friends and that kind of thing. And so they decided to get a trophy together. And then I don't know who the connection was, but they were able to speak to Governor Ronald Reagan. At the time, he was governor of California, and Governor Reagan was kind enough to donate the trophy and the deed of gift, which he signed. So it's been quite a thing. I think Chet and Glee Purcell are looking down, going, wow, because it started out with borrowed boats. The original age limit was 20, so you could not be 20 years of age. And borrowed boats are always tough, and it was mostly started out as a West Coast and eventually got to be a national event. And then in 1989 we had our first international competitor, and needless to say, the international competitors have done very well ever since. But it's become quite a thing. It's really considered there is now, since 2014, there is an official World Sailing Youth World Championship. But I would venture to say that while that is something obviously everybody wants, the Governor's Cup, because of the history and the sailors that have sailed in it, I think is a top get. I mean, I think everyone would love to win the Governor's Cup before they're 23 years old.
Who are some of the former participants and winners? I mean, you've won it twice, and some other names back in the day, famously good sailors, Congressional Cup sailors, winners, and so on. But some modern guys like Jimmy Spithill have been competitors.
Yeah, Jimmy Spithill sailed twice. He was kind enough at our 50th anniversary to join us down here, and we didn't tell the sailors that he was coming. So in the morning briefing, he just walks into the room. So that was quite a neat thing. But he said, he was on the bow the first time, and he said, I didn't really know how to do that. And he had some funny stories. Interestingly, there's sort of an interesting fact. After 57 years, no skipper or tactician who has won the America's Cup or won the Governor's Cup has ever won the America's Cup, but a whole bunch of skippers and tacticians who did not win the Governor's Cup have won the America's Cup, and Jimmy Spithill is one of those. John Kostecki, Olympian and round the world race winner, Paul Kayard, round the world race winner and star gold champion. I could go on and on. Gavin Brady is now just back on the match race circuit after many years off. Gavin won the Governor's Cup. It's pretty much a who's who of really great sailors, and it's exciting, and we have more great sailors this year. Before we leave this slide, tell us a little bit about the Balboa Yacht Club. Christine Gribben, who's the regatta chair for life, is on as my guest next Tuesday when I get down there. We do our regular Tuesday show under the tent. Tell us about Balboa Yacht Club. Sure. Balboa Yacht Club was founded in the early 1915, I believe, 1922. Sorry, we just had our 100th anniversary. 1922, and we kid our Newport Harbor Yacht Club friends because Newport is a few years older, and Balboa was formed originally as the Southland Sailing Club by a bunch of members from Newport that didn't think that Newport spent enough concentration on small boat racing. And so they started Balboa. And it moved from the Little Balboa Island across from us, across the bay right now. to this facility some years after that. And it's just grown, it's a fabulous facility. The location is pretty awesome. It's the closest club to the jetty entrance to go out in the ocean. It looks to the west, so it looks right into the sunset in the summer. When we used to have sun here, that's a neat thing. It has about 850 members and includes 3 members of the National Sailing Hall of Fame. It's a pretty neat club.
It is indeed. I'm honored, very pleased to be an honorary member of the club. They, in a weak moment, Commodore Judy Gorski made him. Well, was she the first female Commodore or among the first?
She was.
First female Commodore, a very good sailor, and she still is active in the club and helps with Gov Cup and quite a gal. And she in a weak moment made me an honorary member. I think maybe Andy had something to do with that as well. But it's a terrific club. Andy, how many junior? I mean, during Gov Cup week next week, one of my problems is keeping our equipment dry under that tent, because the kids are coming in from junior sailing and they're pulling their boats up on the ramp just kind of behind the Gov Cup there to the right, and the water flows down into the tent. But are there upwards to 300 kids in the junior program?
Yeah, the junior program, I used to teach in the junior program back in the day, and Balboa's always had a good program, but now I would venture to say I am prejudiced, but it has one of the best programs in the world. And the reason for that primarily is Susanna Pyatt, now Susanna Chapman, from New Zealand, who was hired to try to bring us into a world-class thing. She's done, it is so amazing what she's done. For example, those of you who are from the United States or know about the United States, we use prams, 8-foot prams here as our beginning boat called sabots. Well, we're really the only place that uses those. And so that's great because there are a lot of them and stuff. But Susanna immediately started an Opti program. So we have the first Opti program on the West Coast. The match racing program is incredible. And look what it's done, basically. Produced Jeffrey Peterson and a bunch of up and coming sailors. So pretty much there are kids coming from all different clubs to participate in one or the other part of the program. So I couldn't be more pleased.
Okay, well, let's play the bumper. Everybody will see this plenty in the next week. We call this the B bumper, and it's the intro. It's about a 25-second video intro that you'll be seeing on our 10 live broadcasts next week from Balboa Yacht Club and out on the water. A little change from the B bumper we've used in past years. We've actually put the sailors' names, Julia, in that nice crawl. Right. Andy liked that yesterday when I showed it to him. And we've really got a terrific list of kids. It's an astonishing, tough field. And to have 8 of the 12 back, as Andy will tell us more in a moment. But also, Andy, tell us about, you've told us a bit about the Gov Cup itself, but on the 50th anniversary, 7 years ago, you managed to get all 3 of the major match racing trophies in one place together at Balboa Yacht Club. Did we lose you, Andy?
Yeah.
Andy, we've lost you.
Sorry, I did.
There we go.
Yeah, this is something I wanted to do for the 50th because the progression used to be Governor's Cup, Congressional Cup, and then a lot of us were fortunate enough to sail in the America's Cup. Not so much anymore with the latter. But to get these trophies together, I thought the kids would be sort of amazed. This is the only time the Congressional Cup has left the city of Long Beach. And the America's Cup was there because of our great former Vice Commodore of the Golden Gate Yacht Club and Commodore. That's Tom, and the Commodore, who was just incredible, and they brought it down. And the kids I've never seen eyes so big as the kids when they came up and looked at this. And it still affects me. I mean, it was an incredible day, and to see those trophies there together was just magic. And we really appreciate Long Beach Yacht Club. We have a very close relationship with them. for obvious reasons. We patterned the Governor's Cup after the Congressional Cup. Many of us have sailed in it and won the Congressional Cup. And for example, the winner of the Governor's Cup will receive an invitation to the Ficker Cup, which Long Beach Yacht Club hosts, and the first two finishers in the Ficker Cup, at least the first one and sometimes two, are invited to the Congressional Cup, which is the granddaddy of them all. So it's a good relationship, and we really appreciate Long Beach Yacht Club's continued support of the Governor's Cup.
Before we leave the America's Cup, tell us about your role back in the 70s, but particularly in 77, and then why I was commissioned by New York Yacht Club to write what I still call the Rose Rule.
I think it was the Congressional Cup in 1972, maybe, or three. Argyle Campbell, who won the first two Governor's Cups, and I won the second two. We teamed up as skipper and tactician and won our first two Congressional Cups. There was a guy from Hawaii who was a great guy named Cy Gillette who knew Alan Bond. And Cy suggested to Alan that you better get these guys down to teach you how to match race. And so Alan invited us down to Australia. We never did that, but I did go back and coach them in 73 or 74 for the 74 Cup. I coached the two skippers and the team on match racing. And then a couple years later, I got a call from Bob Miller / Benny Lexon. And I think he was Benny by then. And he said, well, why don't you sail with us? And I said, well, I can't. I'm an American. He says, no, mate, we read the rules. No rule against it. I had been sort of invited, or at least I thought I was, to be Ted Hood's tactician on Independence at the Congressional Cup. But I guess they expected me to show up. I really didn't hear from them much after that. Well, at the time, it was a very East Coast thing, and everybody lived an hour and a half drive for everybody else. They expected me to get in the car, I guess, and drive 2,200 miles. But anyway, the best thing that ever happened, because Independence was not a very fast boat, and we were able to win the Challenger trials and then challenge for the Cup. We were a little off the pace, as it happens in 12 meters. I mean, but it is a little, it's a matter of, 45 seconds after, 24 miles. But unbelievable experience. I mean, going out for the first race of the America's Cup, I've described it as the most alive I ever felt. And I was, accepted by the Australians, and I love that country, and I'm very, although I'm American, at least until this election, depending on what happens.
You're not a big fan of Donald Trump, are you?
We'll just leave that there. We're not talking about politics.
Could be an interesting week next week, Julia.
No, I'm very proud to have worn the Green and Gold, and I have, a myriad of friends in Australia, and I'm looking forward to getting back there. So. Great experience.
And then New York Yacht Club asked me to write a rule when I joined the club in 79, 80, 81, I guess it was. And they said, yeah, we need some help writing a rule to prohibit what happened in 77, a nationality rule. And it was already had been drafted by one of the lawyers in the club. And it was sort of a rule that didn't make a lot of sense. I tried to tune it up. We did subsequently tune it up. But all you had to do is get an apartment and an electric bill from your apartment and show that you were a resident, or you could own a residence, or you were resident in the country. And of course, everybody just got apartments. And as Hamish Ross, who's on here watching, will tell you, he, as the rules advisor for Alinghi, for Ernesto Bertarelli, came to us when we were Challenger record leading up to the 07 Cup, and he said, this rule is ridiculous. It's broken in all the time. So,
well, the rule is ridiculous, like its namesake. But at least
we got rid of it. We got rid of the Rose Rule.
I know. Well, I was a footnote in America's Cup history. Let's put it that way.
Well, there's a nationality rule now. It's back. It's actually quite a bit tighter, but it's also Crutonic. But we got a question, Andrew. We got a question from another Andrew Pindar, our super Fozy in England. He says, important question for Andy. Is he more a red rose or white rosé? I think he means red rosé or white rosé. And of course, those of you who know Andy, and as you do, Julia, know that his nickname is
Rosé.
Rosé.
Yeah, in Australia, you sort of have to have a nickname, and that's what Neil Harvey, I think, was the guy that came up with that, and that has that has, for better or for worse, has stuck over many years in the sailing community worldwide. So
Andy, as you know, this show sometimes has a reputation, even though I've quit drinking, as you know. But Julia still has a tipple every now and then. But this is known as the drinking show with a sailing habit. What is ranch water?
ranch water is a health drink, which is very important. I mean, you really need to, when you're sailing, no matter what position you're in, you really have to be fit. And ranch water is a great health drink for that. It's very good tequila, soda, and fresh lime juice.
Perfect.
They're quite good.
I knew Julia would like that.
It's sweeping the country.
Sweeping, it is certainly sweeping the kids in the Gov Cup who are old enough to drink, those over 21. Ranch water is, I was talking with Will Bolden the other day, who's not coming, unfortunately. Coach Will, who's out in Perth. And of course, what time is it in Perth? It's 04:25. So if he is watching the show, it's because he's still up, not because he's
just getting in.
Yes, just getting in. Will Bolden. And I asked him, it's apparently he's not coming, but he says he's going to come next year because he was the inspiration for what we call the Coach's Corner in the morning shows, the Wednesday through Saturday morning. And we'd have Will or one of the other coaches come up and talk. And of course, Will would talk about the more relaxed late night activities, which we had to censor finally. One last thing before we get on to some more about the Gov Cup, Andy, is that, I'm feeling very insecure, even more insecure than usual, because I sit here with Julia during this show, and she, of course, vice president of her class at Stanford, and you being a senior serious guy at Stanford as well. And when I go to the football games down there with you, they're not as good as my alma mater, Michigan, perhaps, on the gridiron.
Perhaps.
But you are so well known and so well liked when we go there to the Chuck Taylor Grove and talk to all those folks, your ex-fraternity brothers and people across. What was it like for the two of you going to Stanford? How has that changed your respective lives?
Julia, why don't you go first?
I entered innocently and came out the world's biggest fan.
Of sailing or Stanford
of
or
Stanford.
Ranch water or?
No ranch water at the time, but lots of other stuff perhaps. But it began a lifelong relationship with the institution and with thousands of people.
And it's, of course, one of the top sailing schools. Last year they won what we call the Dinghy Nationals,
right?
With an all-female team. Normally there's a female division and an open division.
Right.
Yep, that was a first.
That was a first. And Andy, did you sail at Stanford yourself?
Well, at the time we couldn't put two FJs in the water that would hold up for more than about 40 minutes. So I sailed one regatta, and we just really didn't have the equipment or any money. The good thing, though, is that we were invited. A guy that's a couple years older than me, Tom McCarthy, won the Kennedy Cup, which is the big boat series held at the Naval Academy every year in the Naval Academy yawls, then 44-footers. And so I was invited to that and sailed with him one year, and then came over with once as a skipper there, and great regatta. And I remember on the way back from where the boats are back to the Bancroft Hall area, Senator Kennedy was driving out with a bunch of the kids, and he had been out watching. And so we hopped on the front of his station wagon, and he drove us back to Bancroft Hall. We didn't go into the water.
You didn't drive off any bridges.
No, we didn't drive off any bridges. But Stanford was, one of the great experiences of my life. I mean, without question, it's an amazing place, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But the sailing program now there is like unrecognizable to me and my contemporaries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, J. Frederick Bland, who's a graduate of the Naval Academy, says go Navy. But Fog Machine is Lance Burke. He was on the Cal Cup. He was sailing in the race over to Hawaii that started here earlier this week. And apparently they pulled out. And he's on here watching. Hello, Lance.
The Pacific Cup. Pacific Cup. Tom.
Pacific Cup. Did I say Cal Cup? Yeah, the Pacific, the Pac Cup. The Fog Machine is handle here on YouTube, and he's saying, I worked as a researcher in comp-sci and computer science at Stanford for 2 years. It was a great experience. He's one of the brightest people we know at St. Francis Yacht Club, too. You two are two of the brightest I know, and
Well, Tom,
I'm,
the only problem is that-
intimidated to be on the show with you both.
Well, Tom, I don't know if you see, but Julie and I both have a big note in front of us that to remind us to don't use big words.
Thank you. Well, you know, she is the resident grammarian, and when we don't know a word or the pronunciation of a word, particularly in French, she sorts us out. Okay. Now
Well, we
you've
just
really
don't
made
wanna-
me.
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't want to
going
confuse you with big words.
to slink down in my chair now. I'm feeling very insecure. Okay, let's get on with some more slides here. We've talked about the club, and this is the setup. You'll see the tent is in the forecourt there, right in front of the club, and we have breakfast there. We have the morning show in that tent. The white patch there on this side of the tent is the backdrop for the stage from which we operate. Starting Monday night, Andy hosts a terrific welcome for all the teams. It's after a dinner. There's upwards to 300 people under that tent for a fancy dinner. And then the boats are right out front the next morning and every morning. And the kids come back in at night, and there's a team of bosuns led by Greg Newman and Father Newman, as we call him, who keep those boats in tip-top shape. So that's a little bit of the lay of the land. Now, Andy, tell us, if you would, about this terrific lineup that you and the selection committee have managed to attract to this year's 57th edition.
Sure. Well, we'll go in order because otherwise I'll get very confused. Daniel Kemp, this is his first Governor's Cup. I don't know if he's crewed before, but I think not. So this is his first Governor's Cup. He's from the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron in Sydney, Australia. We have had competitors from the squadron before, but not anywhere near as many as from their club across the Sydney Harbor, the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. But Daniel had a very good year. Won, or didn't win, but was podium finisher in a couple of the major events. He's an up-and-coming, he's 20 years old, and he's an up-and-coming match racer. I would be shocked if this was his only Governor's Cup. I have a feeling that he'll be back, and he may do very well here, but not quite as much experience as someone like the next guy, Cole Tapper.
Andy, excuse me. Let me jump you to the next person who's coming, the next skipper for the first time coming, because I've got pictures of the 8 returnees that I want to put up
great.
when you talk to those. So jump ahead, if you would, to Robbie.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Daniel more on whatever day that is.
Yeah, on Tuesday when I have Christina, we're going to feature the 4 sailors who are coming for the first time. But we'll get in a moment to the pictures of the returnees and
Okay.
how tough a field this is. Maybe Robbie, I think, is the next one.
So I'm sorry, are we going over the ones that are new?
The 4 that are new, please.
Okay, well, Robbie is, except that he isn't. Robbie actually, he's sort of the comeback kid this year. He sailed 2 years ago in the Governor's Cup and didn't have a very good regatta. And as a result, the competition last year, just by the way, as to the competition, since there are 2 automatic invitations based on regatta performance, and then a defending champion is always invited back, we generally have about 3 times as many requests for invitation as we have places. So last year we unfortunately couldn't give Robbie an invitation, but he had a very good year. He's now sailed in a couple of the World Match Racing Tour events. He was just out of the semifinals in the Youth Worlds. And so I have called him the comeback kid because he's a terrific kid, as you know, Tom. You met him a couple of years ago. And so we're looking forward to having him back. Sienna Nichols, other than Jeffrey Peterson, is probably the story of the regatta. Sienna is well, let me give you a little of her record. She won the Mayor's Cup in Long Beach Yacht Club, which is a women's event. And in doing so, she beat, I believe it was Allie Bleacher, who was the 4th ranked woman match racer in the world.
In the world.
Yeah, in the world. And got second in 2 of the California Dreaming Series. Has a really good record in match racing. And she is 15 years old. She is by far the youngest competitor ever in the Governor's Cup. But I tell you, she's tough. She's, steered the Catalina 37s in one of the Long Beach things. So, I mean, nothing scares her. And I was talking yesterday to Jeffrey Peterson, and then they went up against her yesterday for a little bit in practice, and they said she's fast.
She is.
So-
You know, Julia, I interviewed
Sienna?
Sienna Nichols over at St. Francis, I don't know, a couple months ago. She was up here sailing on one of these qualifying regattas for
Right.
the something cup. And she was, you know, young, and her whole family was up here, and the whole Balboa Yacht Club. There were a lot of Balboa Yacht Club friends and family supporting her. And we did the interview, played it on the show.
Yeah.
And at the end, I asked her, I said, hey, Sienna, now Gov Cup, you know, we'll be down there doing Gov Cup TV. We really look forward to that event every year. Will you be there, and will you be cheering for Jeffrey? And she said, without
She said,
without missing a beat, she said, cheering for Jeffrey? I'm going to be there. I hope I'm going to be competing against Jeffrey.
Let me give you my favorite. Sienna was manning the Governor's Cup booth at the Balboa Yacht Club opening day, and I walked up to it, and one of her friends is sitting next to her, and somehow thought that I didn't know who I was talking to. And I said, you know, this is Sienna Nichols. And I said, I know who you are. I thought to myself afterwards, told her, I said, Sienna, you're going to hear those words so many times in your life. I know who you are.
yeah.
And how about Dylan?
Dylan is another, Julia, you'll like this. Dylan is starting at Stanford in the fall.
Uh-huh.
Dylan is a sort of a magic dinghy sailor. Did very well in the U.S. Youth Match Racing Championship for the Rose Cup. Was very competitive there. Is relatively new to match racing, but like a lot of these sailors, become superb dinghy sailors, and doesn't take them too long to get up to speed in match racing. So I think Dylan will do well. I think he is only 17, so it's, you know, he probably would certainly not be a favorite here, but he'll win some races. And he's going to be a terrific match racer, and he's already a terrific guy. And you know, we're very excited to have Dylan here. Dylan is the second representative of Newport Harbor Yacht Club. So Morgan Pickney and Dylan. And then for Balboa Yacht Club, we have Jeffrey and Sienna. And that's pretty unusual, but I think it shows the value of the match racing program in the harbor here now. It's really starting to produce some amazing sailors.
Blake Middleton, speaking of Stanfordites, he at least coached there. He was, for a long time, a coach at Stanford for sailing, and he's on saying it's so cool to see that Dylan is one of the Gov Cup entries. His dad, Brady, was a truly cool member of my Stanford team that he was coaching.
Nice.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Hello, Blake.
Uh,
Anyway, so that's, you know, that's those kids. I mean, this is, you know, we look back at some of the records, and almost everybody has beaten everybody else in at least one or two round robin races, if not finishing on the podium of some of the Australian regattas, et cetera. So it really, you know, it's a cliche, but any one of these teams can beat any of the other teams on any given day.
Okay, Julia's laughing because Clark Chapin said, entering Stanford in the fall, couldn't he get into the University of Michigan? Clark, who's in Plymouth, Michigan, as you know. Okay, enough of this college stuff. Rah, rah, rah. I just want to note again, we showed this slide in the show on Tuesday. The 2023 results, Jeffrey Peterson won over Cole Tapper, Morgan Pinkney, and Justin Callahan. Those four would be the favorites. We'll ask Andy that in a moment. But they're back, as are another four. So there's 8 returning from 2023, which again gives you a clue of how tough this field is. Plus 5 of the 12 are in their last year, which is, what's the age? You can't turn what, 23, Andy?
Yeah, you cannot have turned 23 by the last day of the regatta. We still use the regatta as the cutoff date.
And that's the world sailing rule. A lot of people think that's
The
too.
world sailing rule now, they want everybody to go to calendar years, but we have not. We've been around for 40 more years than the youth world. So, you know, we think we have some ability to do our own thing.
Talking about how well connected our foes are. Another Stanford grad,
Yes.
alum, David James, who's across the bay, who sat in for you, Julie, a couple times
Right.
over there at your desk on this show. David James is saying that Brady C was a great teammate, so he must have sailed with Brady at Stanford University. Shall we now look at the 8 returnees, Andrew, starting, this is alphabetical by country and then alphabetical within the country. Cole Tapper, who, by the way, still to me looks like the younger brother of Gavin Brady.
Well, you never know.
Gavin's an Aussie, though. You know, do
Yeah,
you think
that's
there's
true.
some mixing between the Aussies and the Kiwis
Well,
across the Tasman?
I can tell you one example is Cole Tapper's crew. Jack Freeman from rural New Zealand was invited and got back to us a month or so later and said, I can't get a crew together. And Cole says in his crew list, and there's Jack on it. So anyway, yes, there's a lot of intermingling.
Yeah, Steve Groover says, yeah, maybe if not the younger brother, maybe he's the son of Gavin, the son he doesn't know yet.
Yeah, as I said, you never know. Cole's big brother actually sailed in the Governor's Cup first, but Cole crewed for him. And then I believe it was last year or the year before, his big brother ended up crewing for Cole.
Yep.
Cole is a terrific sailor, a terrific match racer, and really specializes in match racing, and has proven his abilities. He lost to Jeffrey last year in a closer than it looked final series, but then in Australia he got second in the Youth Worlds to Ange de Klerk from France, and in doing so beat Jeffrey in that. So this is sort of the rubber match here in youth. This is Jeffrey's last year in youth match racing, at least the under 23 regattas. And so, you know, they're 1-1 against each other in the last 8 months. So let's see who comes out on top here.
Yeah, Peter Taylor knows him from Oak Cliff and saying that Cole is an outstanding competitor. And the president of Australian Sailing just checking in, Alistair Murray, he's on his European sojourn. He's in Norway now, checking in. He's saying goodbye to all of us, and he'll send us an AAAA. And Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote, but he's very proud of the Aussies in here. And of course, Cole Tapper could very well win this year. And speaking of an Aussies, Andrew, we've also got my favorite, only because he's got the best hair, Marcello Torre, who sounds Italian, but he's Australian from the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club out in Perth.
I saw Marcello last night, and he didn't send us a headshot for use. We do posters of all the sailors around the club, and he didn't send us a new headshot, so I used his old one, which had even more hair than that, and he hasn't changed a bit. So it was fine using that. The hair is still like that. So, but they came a couple days early and are very excited. Marcello's best regatta since the last Governor's Cup was the Warren Jones in Western Australia, which is an under 25 event, and he got second in that, and again beating a lot of his fellow competitors here in the Governor's Cup in doing so, including Cole. So I think he's about ready to break out here. This is his last year in the Governor's Cup. So it's sort of now or never, but I think he'll be very competitive.
Andy, did any of these, this big IT outage that happened in this country and beyond this morning affected flights coming in, going out? Any of these, I'm seeing that the NBA and the summer season NBA players and baseball players are not making it to their games tonight. Are any of these kids affected by that? I had a question earlier.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised, but you know who would know that is Becky Lenhart, our incredible sailing director.
Indeed.
At Balboa Yacht Club, who without her, there would be no Governor's Cup, period. She would know that. And I hadn't thought of that, Tom, but that may very well be the case. But happily, we don't start till Monday. So people, I'm sure the whole group will get here, but as you say, perhaps not exactly as planned.
Well, maybe one of the longest distance competitors is the returnee from Brazil, Nicolas Bernal, former Lightning junior or youth, I'm not sure which they call it, world champion from the Yacht Club Santo Amaro. And he doesn't speak English really well, but when he does, everybody listens. He says something quite significant, very cool.
Yeah, he's also a return competitor. His match racing skills are improving significantly. He did okay in the Worlds and had a record basically that easily got him selected again. Really good dinghy sailor. He represented Brazil in the Pan American Games a couple of years ago, at age 19 or something like that. So good dinghy sailor, good match racer, and definitely has gotten the match racing bug, because he's now been sailing in a number of the Australian regattas. You talk about traveling, he's got his frequent flyer miles, I'm sure. But I think, he'll be a competitor. Jeffrey Peterson on Hamey says Jeffrey was amazed that this year, that when Jeffrey sailed against him in the Worlds, he said that guy has improved markedly. And I said he was amazing.
Is he the first Brazilian? Have you had other Brazilians over the years?
No, we actually have had other Brazilians. What's the famous Brazil sailing family? We had one of them. Forget, but name escapes me right now.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Julia's in love with them.
I know.
They've stayed here at the Beach Street Yacht Club long before I was here to chaperone.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
One of the Grails, no doubt.
Yes, one of the Grails.
Yeah.
I forget which one, but yes.
Steve Gruber, Andrew Pindar, all chipping in now with Grail, and of course the Grail daughter. Is it Torben's daughter? Was not Robert Scheidt. I think you mean the Grail family.
Yeah.
And I think Torben's daughter is the one who is at the very top Olympian now. But we'll talk some more about the Brazilian. I like this kid Nicholas too. His Spanish, you know how bad my Spanish is, Andy, because you're always making fun of it when we're off in Mexico at some race. And Martin, thank you, Steve. But my Spanish is good enough, despite your protestations, that I could communicate with. He, of course, speaks Portuguese, but they all speak Spanish, or at least as well or better than I. It's a kid. We're welcome. We're delighted to have him back. And then we got another returnee, who, when you and I were showing up to the dock from your place on the Duffy, on the little electric launch last year, I guess it was Sunday night, we were going over there to have dinner, and they met us, his crew, all nicely dressed, all in topsiders. They'd come down to the float to help dock the boat, and, we were perfectly capable of doing it ourselves. But it was this kid who I call 007. He's the James Bond of the not just because he's wearing a tux, but Tom Higgins and his team from the Royal St. George Yacht Club are just gentlemen. Didn't do very well last year, but I suspect, Andrew, they'll be a little better this year.
Yes, he had sailed in the Worlds, and this year he's starting off with a bang. He won the Irish Match Racing Championship, non-age limited. So he just won that pretty handily.
Oh, good.
So that's a pretty good tune-up for the Governor's Cup. So you'll hear about Tom. Tom's going to win some races in this thing, and you're right, they're great guys. We saw them when we sailed Defender, the 12-meter last year in a couple of regattas, including the Worlds, and they were teaching. He and a couple of his crew were teaching back there. I don't know whether it was at Sail Newport or somewhere else, but they came up as we're coming in one day in a rubber boat and started yelling, and we looked over and it was Tom and his crew. So looking forward to seeing him.
Has anyone ever sent a headshot? This was his, he sent this in. I don't think I grabbed this. Maybe I did. Maybe I grabbed this off the internet rather than him sending it in. Have we ever had a headshot of somebody in a tux?
I don't think so. I don't think so. The dress code gets a little lax at the Governor's Cup.
A question here from Pedro Foiling Sailor, a.k.a. Peter Stevenson, down in Sydney. Tom, ask Andy, what is the key attribute that a match racer has to be outstanding above the competition? Is there such a key attribute?
Yeah, I think confidence. You got to believe in yourself. When we first started doing this, we won pretty much all the time in the Governor's Cups and the Congressional Cups because we absolutely thought we were better than anyone else. We knew more about match racing. Nobody scared us. We could go out and beat the shit out of them. And then we tried to, in my quiet way, I don't yell at other boats, but I quietly tell them what's expected of them. And sometimes the intimidation.
I've sailed enough with Andrew to know. And then if I try it, and I'm his strategist, I'm standing in the back of the boat because I'm old, I don't want to get forward of the wheels either. And if I start shouting in another boat, Andy shouts at me, let me do the shouting. Is that true,
anyway,
Andy?
I think that's it. And the other thing, that has to be combined with experience.
Yeah.
In match racing, I think more than any other discipline in the sport, the learning curves are very steep if you really start sailing and match racing, start doing a lot of regattas. In other words, the second regatta you do, you are twice as good as you were in the first regatta. The third one, you're another half again as good.
Yeah, it almost
So,
goes up
you know,
exponentially.
I think great confidence and experience, and then boat speed. You know, match race tactics are very important, but we had a two-time winner here, Nevin Snow, who I think Nevin would admit was not the absolute best match race tactician, you know, that kind of thing, but he was just fast. And, you know, fast is good. It makes your tactics look really good.
That's what Buddy Melgus always said.
Yeah.
John Emmett saying, yeah, time and distance management, he thinks is emphasized in the ability to manage that. Dennis Conner would agree with Coach John Emmett. And Blake Middleton, I quietly tell the other boats what we expect from them. What a brilliant quote from Andy. Okay, we'll move on here. By the way, I checked the flag, Andy. I checked the Irish flag. It is correct. God forbid I'd get that wrong. And of course, my graphics department, Julia, as you know.
I know. We have to keep him awake.
Julia, we have a big, Andy, as you know, to do this show behind those doors. There's another 20 people who help us run this show, switching the show, the graphics department, and so on. Okay, let's move on here to another of my favorites. This is Josh Hyde, who's just, you know, you can see in his face, he's full of life. He's a lot of fun. He's very bright and a hell of a good sailor from the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron.
Yeah, he isn't yet, but he's going to be a rock star. Like, there's no question. Royal New Zealand has produced more winners of the Governor's Cup than I think they're in third. I think they're in second behind Balboa Yacht Club. And they produced another one here. Josh is, I agree with everything he said. Terrific guy. He sailed last year. Not, you know, terribly effectively, but again, that was one of his first major match races. He has made up for that in the last 12 months by doing extremely well in a lot of the series in Australia and New Zealand. So he will definitely be a competitor. If you're looking for, you know, if you assume that Cole and Jeffrey and Justin and Morgan Pinckney are the favorites, he would be a dark horse favorite.
Do you think Josh is?
I think he could make a big splash here.
Ahead of Justin Callahan?
Analogy. What?
Ahead of Justin Callahan?
You know,
right up there with him.
You remember what I just said about experience? Josh has sailed a lot more match races in the last 12 months than Justin has.
Good point.
And so I think you're going to see him right in there. I would be fearful of sailing against him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Based on even what we saw last year.
Yes, indeed. He had moments last year.
I got another funny quote. Julie, do you want to read David's?
Yeah.
This is another, the Stanfordite David James.
Oh, I love that.
David James said, I believe it was Russell Coots who said, there is no yelling on board this boat because I'm the only one who is allowed to yell, and I don't yell.
And I can attest to that as well. But
again, I don't either. But in match racing, you have to encourage the other yacht.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the three Americans and then wrap this up. We've got three terrific guys, starting with Justin Callahan, just aforementioned.
Justin is simply one of the finest sailors in the world. Full stop. He's amazing. This year, he just most recently, a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, won the Snipe Class National Championship in the United States. And along with the Lightning and the Star, which are older classes, but still among the most competitive one design classes in the world, to win a Snipe Nationals. He had won the Junior Nationals before, and now to win outright is amazing. And he beat Augie Diaz, who has more of those than he can count. But Augie has also been coached Justin over the years. And then a couple of weeks before that, he's been a little busy. He skippered for Harvard, which won the National Dinghy Championships by a huge 1 point over Yale. But Justin steered in that. He did his first match race in the Rose Cup a couple of years ago and got second to Morgan Pinckney. He just is one of those sailors that just has it. He's fast, he's smart, and he goes to Stanford of the East.
Ah,
yes.
And the name of that school is not Michigan?
No, it's not actually.
So he's at Harvard. Hey, Andy, is his brother coming?
His brother is not. Interestingly, Mitchell is, forget what Mitchell is doing, but he's doing something else. So this will be a little different. Justin has a little different crew this year, but I don't think that's going to stop him. And in fact, one of his crew crewed for him in the snipe in the win in the Nationals. So I think Justin's a leader. I mean, you can just tell. I mean, people want to sail with him, and I can see why.
Yeah.
So I think he's clearly one of the four favorites here.
At Harvard with his brother, from a terrific sailing family. I've known his dad for years and years and years. I don't know his mom as well, but John Callahan, a longtime New York Yacht Club member and a terrific leader and contributor to our sport, has produced a couple of great kids, and I'm looking forward to seeing Justin again down. Is he there yet, Andy?
I don't know. I haven't been over to the club today, so I don't know. Maybe.
I hope they didn't have it.
He may be experiencing the flight, the computer stuff today.
Yeah, well, I hope it's the domestic flights apparently that are the most boggled up. Another American, of course, the two-time winner, Jeffrey Peterson. He's a Fozy, been on this show any number of times. From Balboa Yacht Club. He grew up at Balboa Yacht Club, now going to college at
Georgetown.
G-Town.
Yep. Loves it. He's having a great time. I've known Jeffrey since he was about 5, when his parents took him down to the dock and we had my 50-footer there. And Jeffrey asked if he could help wash It's Okay. And I knew we had one right then. He has turned into, right now, you would have to say that he's the best over the last 2 or 3 years, the best youth match racer in the world. And he has a world championship to help prove that. He is looking to make some history here. There are 13 of us that have won the Governor's Cup twice over the 57, 56 so far. This will be the 57th. Jeffrey could win his 3rd. If he wins this time, he'll be the only sailor to have won 3 of these. I'm a little concerned because Jeffrey and I have this informal contest. I got to do a lot of the things that Jeffrey did back then and, won some races and stuff. And so we have a who's more bitchin' contest. For those of you who haven't grown up in the surf community, bitchin' is like really good, cool, etc. I told Jeffrey that if he wins this, that contest may be over, but then I remembered I forgot to put in the old age allowance for me. So I'm still ahead on points.
Well, and to be fair to you and the others who did win it twice, what was the upper age limit in those days?
19.
So in effect, he's got another 3 or 4 years in which to win a 3rd one.
Yeah, but you with experience, those, I was better at 21 than I was at 19, and better at 22 than I was at 21. So he's sailing against tough. He's done this against some really tough competition.
Yeah, fair enough.
Not that we didn't have, we had really good competition too in both the Governor's Cup and the Congressional Cup, but it's a different age, and he's. Tell you, I saw him yesterday though. He sailed with us in the evening beer can series, and he's focused. I don't know that I've ever seen him so focused. He has one interesting crew change this time. Max Brennan, I believe, has aged out. Max has been with him on every one of his wins, the Rose Cup, the 2 Governor's Cups, the Worlds, and was an integral part of his crew, and those two worked incredibly well together. This year, though, he's bringing Daniel Pegg, who I've sailed with. He was on the 12-meter with us last year. I would venture to say that Daniel Pegg is an all-around sailor. He can do any job on the boat, including steer, fix the boat, etc. He's the best all-around sailor. He's one of the best all-around sailors in the world. So I think, and a good friend of Jeffrey's. So I think he'll be just fine with that.
I've got a photo of the two of them sailing last weekend at Oak Cliff, courtesy of our Fozy, Peter Taylor.
Right.
We'll show you in a moment, to show our viewers. You've seen it. Groovy and Bitchin'. Susan Watson Kenny, our publicist, who does a terrific job doing the PR for us, sending out the releases, polishing the releases after you draft them, and I do a little editing, and then we get them over to her with some pictures, and she works her magic, and it's nice to have her on. What else? Are there any other? I think we've covered most of the other comments here. Daniel Pegg, Peter Taylor is saying, he sailed a few times with Dave Perry. Yes, the guy knows what he's doing. He does.
Well, on the 12, Tom, last summer, we had some crew changes. Some people weren't able to sail at the last minute, including my partner, Tom Purcell. So we moved Danny Thompson to the helm. And Daniel was like in a grind or something like that. Daniel ended up trimming the mainsail on a 12-meter. And that ain't easy stuff. And also, it is a crucial job. I mean, you're the one that's really going to make the boat go fast or slow. And he jumped in, and I've sailed a lot of 12 meters for a lot of years. He jumped in, and it was like he'd been doing it all his life. That's exceptional. He's an incredible downwind in a breeze helmsman. I can't say enough for him. So if you have to replace Max Brennan, Daniel Pegg is a great choice to replace him.
Okay, well, good sailors manage to be good sailors, or so my beloved father says. And it takes mental agility as well as physical agility, and some people have it.
Yep.
Daniel's the guy to have on your boat, Peter Taylor is saying. So that may even, I mean, nothing against Jeffrey's previous cruise, but having Daniel, Pegg was here's Greg Newman saying, Father Newman, who's the head of the boat department, our head bows, what do we call them?
Bosun.
Bosuns. Pegg was a rock star crew going to PV, to Puerto Vallarta this year on It's Okay. He drove like he stole it, like he stole the boat. Apparently,
I love that. Yeah.
Good on the wheel as well, Andrew.
Yep, absolutely. No,
Somebody else who's good on the wheel is Morgan Pinckney from across the bay. The other local favorite, really, besides Sienna, Morgan Pinckney of Newport Harbor Yacht Club. Talk about surfer, fisherman, loves the water, grew up in Newport Beach, and has also done some commentary with us, and he's pretty good at that.
Mm-hmm.
That was what, 4 years ago, right? 3 years ago, something like that. Yeah, I asked him to commentate. I think it might have been the Worlds, but he said, "Oh yeah, I can be there." He said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Well, we'll anchor somewhere right off Balboa Pier." He said, "Oh, okay. Well, I gotta go surfing, but I'll just paddle out." So he paddled out, got off at the stern of the boat. We gave him a shirt and got up and, started commentating as if he had done that forever. Morgan is another one of those Justin Callahan types, and they are very good friends. Morgan is another great, way beyond his years. One of my favorite stories is he decided that he wanted to sail 505s. 505 is another class, international class, that has a tremendous group of sailors. They're really good sailors in that fleet. So he takes a 505 for, he had practiced a little bit, but went out for his first regatta, which was the Worlds, and got first in the first race. He ended up sixth, but that's just typical. He's also done very well in the international 14 class. He just likes sailing as many different things as he can. And sometimes one could say that the boats used in collegiate sailing are not exactly thrilling. I think that's why Morgan has been sailing other dinghies and now an avid match racer. But he was on the Yale team that got second. He's one of the skippers, and he skipped in the semifinals. So just a terrific sailor, and his match racing is, he just won his second Rose Cup. That's the U.S. Youth Match Racing Championship for the Rose Cup.
For whom is that trophy named?
I don't know. Some guy that sailed for Australia. At any rate, he just won his second one, which is a good tune-up. That was just in June. So he's been back match racing, and that will, he's fully tuned up, I think, for this regatta. And I know he would love to win this, especially because so many of the other favorites or competitors are his good friends. Morgan has a terrific personality, just a great guy, and fun to be around. He's been sailing with us a bit on It's Okay, and went in the Ensenada race with us last year, and that was quite a story we'll leave for another episode. But at any rate, I always look forward to seeing Morgan and talking to him, and he's having a great time in school at Yale for his first year, and so we will see him here probably this weekend before the event starts.
Yeah, Rick Bannerow, who of course lives in Connecticut, not far from Yale, saying "Bula Bula, Morgan." Morgan Pinckney. Yep. Okay, well, I think Morgan also competed in a tricycle race, and those of you
don't give this away.
Watching the show Monday night, we may have.
Yeah, you better watch the show Monday night.
But watch the show Monday night.
He has many skills.
I think he actually, Andrew. I think he commentated with us last year, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did.
Didn't we have him on? We'll see. I think
somebody did.
I think we have a photo of him. Let's look at some of the photos from last year. Here is Morgan racing Justin Callahan in, I guess, their
Petit final, probably.
Petit Final, right? Yeah, that was for third and fourth. Who won that? Did Justin win that?
Yeah. Yeah, Justin won that.
So the racing, even at this, I mean, you don't have to get into the finals to have top-notch racing. This is another from that Petit Final. This is the start of, I think, that same match that you saw. That this shot is an earlier pre-start shot when they're circling around us there on the media boat. In fact, that is the media boat. There's Christophe Chalmant up on the bow, who's part of our media team, who's going to be even more important this year on the media team. I talked to him yesterday, Andy. He's going to help me on shore.
Right.
And Morgan and Justin, and of course, all of these sailors from top to bottom, as you said. This is Morgan and Jeffrey, the two favorite sons, if you will. And I think Sienna's, as you said, Andy, is also going to be very popular indeed. And she may surprise some people. She is tough, but so are Jeffrey and Morgan. And we'll see how they do with and against each other. Last year's final, as Andy said, was between Jeffrey and Cole Tapper. It was a lightish series. It sounds like Andy at the top of the show saying he thinks it's going to be lightish again next week for a good bit of the series. We shall see. Nonetheless, and chime in, Andy, if there's anything you want to add, but Jeffrey went on to win that. Was it 3-2, wasn't it?
No, I think it was, hang on, let me just look at my...
Greg Newman's on here. He'll know. Susan will
Look at
know.
the article I wrote. Hang on a second. See.
It's amazing your encyclopedia.
Yeah, it was actually 3-0. But it was closer than that, as you can see from these boats. It was closer than that. And the last one, unfortunately, the boats were overlapped at the weather mark, and Jeffrey decided to take Cole to Long Beach, which you often see in match racing.
Yeah,
they don't round the mark, basically. They keep sailing. When they came back, Jeffrey had a small lead, but a small lead indeed. And unfortunately, Cole went to the wrong side of the weather mark that they were supposed to round. So he never rounded the mark, basically. Well, that was sort of interesting because the year before, Jeffrey had done just exactly the same thing. He got on the wrong side of a mark and didn't unwind the string. So
yeah, that's right. He won. He did win a couple races, didn't he? But there were penalties involved, and yeah. That was one of the coolest match races I think we have ever seen.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be this time. I just, you'd have to say that Cole and Jeffrey are the favorites, but boy, with Justin and Morgan and I think Josh Hyde maybe and Marcello and Tom Higgins is coming on. You're going to see very different, as we say, 8 of the sailors are back. You're going to see their level of competition now as compared to last year, and it will be incredible. It really will.
Julia?
Yeah. What's really fun about this race is that those of us who aren't racing get to know all the players really well. And I think of their parents who get to see them, which they may not in other ways to do it. But you will have a personal relationship with each of these 12 guys by the time it's over. So I hope that you'll watch.
Well, Julia, that's something, my late mother always said. She really likes sports, and she said, I can watch any sport as long as I know something about the players.
Right.
And I think I've kept that in my mind forever, and I think that's just what you said, and that's what we try to do. And the neat thing is, Tom, that we have a lot of material to work with, because invariably these kids, these young adults are personable, funny, outgoing, etc. And it is really fun to interview them. It's fun to interact with them, and it's especially fun to watch them sail.
Well, and to Julia's point, as you know, we started all this years ago, not because we wanted and it's an all-volunteer team of some 25 people. I don't know. I'll show a couple photos in a moment and wrap this up. But we started doing it really for the friends and family back home. And a couple of kids have come to you and me and said, hey, my grandparents had no idea what the hell I was doing, flying off here and flying off there. Now they know. Because they can watch. The other thing, Andy, that you have done so well with is not to blow smoke up your skirt, But this Monday night show, and I encourage Julius always watches it, and many of the people on here live here right now will have watched it and will again Monday night. But this is the Meet the Teams. It's after the dinner. It starts sharp at 8 o'clock Pacific. And it used to be pretty dry. It was a dry roast, if that's not a mixed metaphor. And Andy would roast these kids politely. He invites them all up on the stage, roasts them lightly, politely. And, you know, there was a couple chuckles, and one or two of them who were maybe a little older had a riposte, had a comeback, but that was kind of it. And it was, you know, it wasn't boring, but it was not as, shall we say, lively as it's been in recent years. Because now, Andy, what happens?
Well, you never know. We have there are a few tricks up our sleeves. We've done some fun things. And we will continue to do some fun things.
Well, but the kids,
I have a few props which I will share with you.
yeah, you got to share them with your director and producer so he knows when to cut to camera 3 and get on. But I mean, one of the funny, Greg Newman is on here. He's saying, "Does Andy give Marcello a haircut? It's needed."
Yeah,
But that was one of your funny shticks.
yeah, we've already used that one. So,
But the kids, I mean, notwithstanding what you prepare, and they know you're going to prepare this stuff, so now the kids come prepared, and they get back at Andy, and a couple of them have been famously clever, great stuff, and it's what makes, we always say this on this show, it's what makes our sport so great. You know, it's friendly, fun on shore, and it's intensely competitive
Right.
on the water.
I'm a little intimidated, Tom, because as we've said, 8 of the competitors are back this year, and that usually means that they've been practicing their match racing, but also they're practicing trying to ding me. So I got to be on my toes on Monday.
Well, sometimes they come to your television producer, too, for Monday night and give him a heads up. So,
Yeah, but remember whose side you're on.
and then
Tom.
swear me to secrecy.
Remember whose side you're on, Eamon.
He does.
I do. And Andy, react to this picture, because speaking of Greg Newman, there's Greg and I think Patrick Lieber, who are the two of the top guys in the club, as well as Bosun, that come out and volunteer year after year to take care of the boats. And Jeffrey has just won last year, and now the Bosun move in to secure his boat so they can jump off and frolic.
It's a Governor's Cup tradition that started, I don't know, quite a few years ago, that as opposed to throwing the skipper in the water or the crew at the dock, they all jump overboard after the race. And Greg Newman and the bosuns are very good at immediately coming up and securing the boat. So far, we haven't lost either a boat or a sailor.
I know. Good.
It's a wonderful moment in the sport. And then, of course, they get hauled out onto the boat. We do a little television commentary with them. And there is the aforementioned Max. Has he had a haircut? Somebody mentioned in the comments.
He looks exactly the same.
He does?
Yep.
I mean, who's the guy that Samson, that if he cut his hair, he lost his strength?
Yeah.
I think that's probably it. Yeah.
And isn't Max going to school in Sydney?
He's just back now. I wasn't quite sure why, but I saw him a week ago at the club. But yes, he's been going to school in Sydney, and actually he sailed with Cole. He sailed with some of the Aussies in the match race series down there.
Oh, good.
So Max is terrific.
Who's the middle guy in this? Any idea who sailed with Jeffrey? Do you remember who sailed with Jeffrey?
Enzo. I think that's Enzo.
We don't know if he's back this year. I just didn't want to not mention him.
Enzo is back this year.
Oh, he is. Good.
Jeffrey. Hang on a second.
Yeah, Blake Middleton says one key goal is to include all team members in the coverage.
Absolutely, Blake. You are
Right.
you are so right, Julia and Blake, and that's one of the things we do before. In fact, that's one of my few jobs is on the broadcast team is to do just that. Before each match, I read the names of the entire crew, and Andy's very good at getting. We're going to have Tom Spithill, the esteemed brother and coach of Jimmy Spithill. Tom is back, is he not, Andrew?
Yes.
Be on the commentary team.
Tom is on the roving boat, and if you watched our coverage last year, Tom is superb. Needless to say, he's got all the experience in the world, and is funny and really gets to the heart of the matter. So I think our team is our broadcast team is pretty good. We think if we do say so ourselves.
Well, and of course, we try to get just incrementally a little bit better. And this year, we've got Chris Bretschker, who's our executive producer, has got some of Elon Musk's Starlink systems going out on the water. And okay, every now and then a satellite will have a satellite gap, but he's even got a backup for that to switch over to the cell system. I don't know. I know how much you like this nerd talk, Andy. Andy says, I'm the talent. Don't bore me with all it. But the long story short, we got a lot of nerds on here on the show as usual. And the Starlink system is brilliant. And it's going to allow us, as you know, Andy, to broadcast full HD, 1080p
Right.
HD this year
From sea.
and not like these other croutons do at some of these other regattas and clubs. Not to pick on anybody in particular, but they're onshore. The commentators are in a sound booth somewhere, maybe London, can't see what's going on. Whereas you insist that we're out on the water on Adios, which is Chris Bretschker's parents' boat. The broadcast setup is up there. We can see everything: the water, the wind, the sailors.
But we try to talk, Tom, as you know, about what's, rather than just, the worst kind of commentary, and I've seen it many times, is describing what anyone can see. Oh yeah, they tacked.
Yeah.
Oh, they jived.
Yeah.
You see that on your screen. We try to anticipate, say, okay, what would you do? So Tom and I and Matt Whitfield will have a conversation. Looks to me like the wind's going a little bit right. I'd probably favor the right side, etc. You can't do that if you're not in the water. I defy you to be in a booth and see the shifts coming down the water. I don't care how high def your cameras are. So I think you just have to be there and feel it as if you were on the sailboat. And we try to do that, and I think we do a pretty good job of it.
100%. And of course, they counter by having somebody on the water who's not necessarily the most experienced, probably a pretty good sailor, maybe even an Olympic medalist, but they are out in a rib in a boat running around, and they're right down on the water, and you don't see nearly as well as those of us that are up higher as we are on Adios. Okay, enough of this. Have to add value. Yeah, why the way TFB puts his hands up when he talks about Starlink kind of makes me think praise Elon.
Why not?
No, this would be praise Elon. This is Starlink. Oh, they turned right. Graham Sweeney says umpires should be able to look the sailors in the eye and stand accountable. Well, that's another good thing we do, Graham, is that we're in constant contact. That's another one of my jobs, because Andy is the kind of the play-by-play commentator, and then Matt Whitfield, who's Andy, a terrific sailor in his own right, Brit, who's now moved to this country. He's doing really the color, filling in, and then I'm talking to the umpires if and when there's a call, and getting they can just give me the rule number because I used to know something about the rules. Wrapping this up, that is Enzo, according to Denise Peterson. Thank you. What's Enzo's last name?
Mendotti.
It is Mendotti. Mendito?
Hang on, I'm going to get that wrong
Get
again.
that, because Rick Banero is saying Mendito.
Yeah, it is Mendito.
Okay, Banero. See, our Fozy are so damn smart, and they.
Yep,
you know,
Mendito. Thank you, Fozy.
Not all of them went to Stanford either. Finally, Jeffrey and the gang, the other tradition, of course, like in a lot of sports, hoisting the trophy above their heads at the prize giving in the tent last year. That also is covered live. We cover 10 shows starting Monday night and ending Saturday night with the press conference that Andy conducts, and then the prize giving that Christine Gribben conducts with the race committee and so on. And it's a great tradition. It's a great event, the 57th edition of the prestigious International Youth Match Racing Championship. This a shot of who we are probably, a lot of us will be cheering for. You know, we're cheering for all of the sailors to have a great regatta. And if Jeffrey can three-peat, and there is Daniel Pegg right on the main.
Yep.
And if Jeffrey, what do you think, Andrew, are his chances of three-peating?
I think better than even. I think I don't know. I think he is very likely to win this.
Well, we'll see. Julia, what do you think?
I think it would be wonderful. We don't know, but he. If anybody goes three-peat, I'd love to see Jeffrey do it.
And Andrew, if he gets to the finals, Peter Taylor, who watched him race last weekend, Peter's a very active contributor, race committee and more at Oak Cliff. Peter's saying, I think he's the favored son. He's saying,
He's dialed in.
and a great coach in Frankie Dare, Greg Newman
Yes.
is saying.
Without question. Let me mention one other thing, Tom, before we go. There's a weight limit for these boats. You can have either 3 or 4 crew up to a maximum weight. Jeffrey has decided to go with just he and 2 others, which he's done before, but they're going to be about a little less than 100 pounds under the maximum weight. If it is a light series like this, that was a perfect call. Some of the teams will be a little light. I think in talking to Justin, I think he's going to be a bit light too, but you never know. You know, you think, God, this is going to be great. And then the last 2 days it blows 18. Doubt that happens here. But interesting. That is part of the mix on how to sail these boats.
Okay, who's your pick, Andrew, Julia, for the other finalist?
Cool.
Cole Tapper. So a repeat of last year. That's a safe.
I'll tell you, I you know, slightly better than even. I wouldn't bet the farm on that, on either one of them, frankly, being in those positions, because literally, you know, somebody's going to come out of the box fast, and this is going to be fascinating. I can hardly wait. This is my second Christmas week every year. So.
Well, you say that, and it's true. It is your second Christmas week, and it is also the highlight, really, of my year in the yachting world, to go down there and help with the television and be at my other club, which I often call in here my favorite club in the world.
Right.
But who's your pick, Julia?
Sienna, just for fun.
Okay, well, good for you.
Just for fun.
The other thing, Andy, one
You're
other
sexist, Julia.
yeah.
Well, why not?
She's woke. She's woke, considering how politically conservative she is. Andy, one other question. The format is double round robin, 4 boats advance to the semis. The 2 winners of the semis are first to win 3.
Yes.
And then the 2 semi winners go to the finals, first to win 3.
First to win 3.
That's different than some of the more recent. Recently a lot of the formats have changed over to a 1 round robin, quarterfinals, semifinals. You prefer this double round robin? Why?
I much prefer this. First, because, you know, this year we have 4 new competitors. Next year we'll have 7, new competitors or so. You know, it takes a little while to get used to the boats. And I think you want to have the sailors sailing as many races as possible in the program. Quarterfinals doesn't do that. I really do not like quarterfinals, frankly, because what we also do, and it's important, is that the semifinalists go sail in the semis. Every other boat continues to sail in a 1st to 2 series for 5th place, 7th place, 9th place, 11th place. So they sail against their nearest competitor after the round robin series.
So they keep sailing, right to the bitter end.
Sailing the whole time.
That's really good.
And that's how you get that experience that gets you the next year onto the podium.
I fully agree. I think the double round robin is and how often do we see it? Somebody struggles in the first round robin, starts to come up a little. Oh, I got to do my Elon Musk thing. Starts to come up a little bit there. So was that Groover who somebody said that?
Yeah.
Starts to come up, and then the second round robin, and then they get into the semis maybe, and they're hot. Speaking of somebody who's hot, Andrew, Marius Vesterland is watching. Another one of our favorites. This kid is going to take over from you. Marius is, huh?
Yeah, Marius.
Say hi to Marius.
We miss you, Marius, but Tom was about to say that, I'm going to age out too at some point. And Marius has a terrific sense of humor, and you can take over my job, Marius.
He probably could. He doesn't have the encyclopedic, so I only went to Michigan, sorry, memory that you have. But he would be fantastic, and he almost took over a couple of years ago when he was there. I miss you guys too, he's saying.
Yeah.
All right.
Marius, we miss you. Good to see you on. Finally, Andrew, comment about our terrific GovCup TV team.
Yeah, Chris Bretcher and Tom Eamon have put together this from originally, with a cell phone. To now what we
do. Holding an iPhone out on the water and shooting it and seeing little white triangles on the horizon. That was so croutonic. But in those days, it was the only thing you could do.
Right. So
you had to use a phone.
as I say, we've come a long way, baby. And I think you're right. I think we have about 25, and it's an all volunteer crew. We have bought a substantial amount of equipment over the years. We just spent another $18,000 or $19,000 this year on some even better equipment.
Really?
So, we try to add something technically each year, and in other ways, but technically, and I think you'll see an even better broadcast of all the broadcasts this year. But the team is terrific, and Chris Bretschker is all self-taught at this, and he is amazing. I cannot believe what that guy can do. And the neat thing about it is I come up with an idea and I say, can we do that? He says, yeah, I'll make it work. I'll do that.
Yeah.
And by the way, the last point is, Tom, we may have some audio from the boats this year. He is working on that.
He is indeed, and we talked at length about it yesterday and how we might do that. And the umpires have said if you're going to do it for one, you've got to do it for both, which is only fair. Yep. And correct. And Chris is working on that. We did a little adjustment to his system yesterday that I think will help. And then we've got Matt Whitfield on the right is back with you and me. And we're unfortunately not going to have Kenny Sherb with us this year, who has been our crack spotter.
Yep. Indeed. But we have a couple good spotters. One, Ethan Snyder, one of the Roger Williams University sailors that helped us last year on the 12-meter. Ethan's flying out, and I think he will also be a crack spotter. So Sherb is great, but I think we've replaced him pretty well too. So,
and Christine Gribben will be our other crack spotter. Our regatta chair actually goes out on the water, helps us in this spotting thing. You talk about why we're able to communicate so much information, because the spotters are listening to us, knowing when we're not quite up to snuff, or we can ask them, hey, who's leading up there in that other match?
Yeah.
Right.
And right away they put it up on a whiteboard, and we've got, it's a fantastic setup, Andrew. And through your leadership and funding, and Susan Watson Kenny is saying, yes, Chris is amazing. He has a natural talent, and he loves doing this. You can tell.
Indeed.
Bravo to the Gov Cup media team, Peter Taylor is saying, and to all of you who've tuned in, we just want to say one more slide here, and this is two very important ladies at Balboa Yacht Club, but particularly to Gov Cup. This is Katie Maxim, who is an international judge, and this year is going to be an America's Cup judge, umpire. And her sister, Christine Gribben, Andy, has been the regatta chair. You call her regatta chair for life. She's on the board at Balboa Yacht Club, along being plus CEO of a company there in town. And she's been, I think I asked her this morning, she's been on the Gov Cup committee for fully 19 years. And she's chaired it for, I think, the last, 12?
Yeah, we won't let her go. I asked her, actually, I think it's pretty undoubtedly that she will be Commodore at some point. And I said, I'll allow you to be Commodore, but you still have to be Governor. She said, no problem. So, and we've made it hereditary. So her daughter, who just got married, will take over when Christine abdicates.
Oh.
Peter Taylor saying Katie and especially Christine are awesome. Peter McDonald, hello, Peter, over at Newport Harbor Yacht Club, another dear friend saying the best sailing coverage ever. Well, it's some of the best sailing coverage ever, and for an amateur act that we are, Andy, it's great fun, and we will give it our best next week, starting Monday night. Here's the broadcast schedule: 8 o'clock Monday night, the Meet the Teams that Andy hosts. It's the roast. It's right after a fabulous dinner there under the tent. And that goes for about an hour and a half, maybe, Monday night. And then they will dock out Tuesday morning. We will do our regular, I stay on shore, we'll do our regular Tuesday show with Christine Gribben will be my host, my guest rather, on for that show. And we'll cover the other 4 sailors who are having their first ever Gov Cup experience. Every morning thereafter at 0900, we do a pre-race morning show. 9 o'clock Wednesday through Saturday, and then we go live out on the Pacific just off Newport Beach at 11:30 Friday, and again on Saturday, with what ends up being the ends of the second round robin on Friday, and then the start of the semis, and then Saturday morning we wrap up the semis and do the finals. That's been the normal plan, protocol, procedure. And then both evenings, Friday and Saturday, Andy conducts a press conference, 7 o'clock Friday night, 5 o'clock Saturday night, with the respective semifinalists Friday night, the finalists Saturday night, and then, of course, Christine does the prize giving with the flag officers of the club and so on. Andrew, Gov Cup guru,
Thank you very much.
any
I'm
final
excited.
thoughts?
No, just please join us as often you can. I think, Tom, it's fair to say also that all these are archived. So basically, if you don't want to get up at 9 a.m. California time in Sydney, you can watch it later, I believe. Is that not
Indeed.
correct?
We're on the club's YouTube channel. We're on the BYC Gov Cup has its own Facebook channel or page, and we'll also do it on Sailing Illustrated's one of the other of our pages. Tom Pace says he's the past Commodore of Pensacola Yacht Club. Nice to see you on, Tom. I've been an ongoing regatta chair for 8 years of multiple events every year. Even when I was Commodore, this lady has done this for 19 years. She wins, has my absolute respect.
Yes.
Ours too. Here, here.
Ours too. Andy,
She's the most confident human being I've ever met.
she is special, and she is a hoot as well.
Indeed.
Julia, any final thoughts?
I'll second that.
Okay. That wraps it up for the Gov Cup segment. I'll let you go, Andy. We'll cover the Olympics and a couple other things and John Emmett's his segment today. And thank you very much indeed. We'll see you. I'll be down there midday Sunday.
Yep. See you Sunday.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. That's our schedule starting Monday evening. Hope you can join us for some of that. It will be good fun. And thanks to Andy for this road to the 57th Governor's Cup. Well, we've done multiple shows now promoting Gov Cup, but we got it pretty well covered in one show this year,
Yes.
Julia, as opposed to several in the past where we've had the kids on and so on. But we're going to have plenty of these kids, plus 8 of them, 12 are back, so we know them pretty well.
Right. No,
Right.
and it's good.
Andrew's good too. Thanks, Andy, Blake Middleton, and Joe Holtzman, and others are saying. Julia, you want to introduce this segment? That's on your screen in the lower third.
Well, we have Coaching Corner with John Emmett
There you go.
from Great Britain.
Great Britain. But where is he?
Is in Weymouth?
No, he's in Lake Garda. He's
Oh, is he still
your
Lake Garda?
favorite place.
Julia and all the Fozy, welcome
yay.
to glorious Lake Garda, and it's been an absolute pleasure being here with Lily doing the commentary. Now, I think everybody knows I'm absolutely passionate about the Youth World Championships, and it's such a good test for sailors because you've got that pressure, and that pressure is it's just you there representing your nation. And that means it's the same as the Olympic Games, one sailor per country, and you have that very Olympic feel, even down to the dining hall where you end up with everybody sat in their team uniform, everybody eating in exactly the same place. Now, Garda's got a reputation as a bit of a wind generating machine, but we've had a difficult couple of days, but I think that just makes it far more interesting. The cream will always rise to the top if you get in enough races, and they've done a really good job of getting in races when they can. In fact, we've had racing at 8 a.m. in the morning when we've had the northerly breeze. For me, I think the key thing is to encourage the young sailors to stay in the sport, and the sailors you see performing well at the Youth Worlds, you're going to see them performing in 4, 8, 12 years time. And what is nice is the Youth Worlds actually reflects the Olympic Games. So we now have 4 foiling classes. God, that's a mouthful. Whereas the Olympics is 5, in fact 50-50, and we have that equal split, that equal gender split, which is so important. And sailing is one of the first sports to do that. In fact, I make a big effort where possible to try and interview, so I interview 50-50 men and women, and that is something to be there as a role model. So the people who are youth champions now maybe will be coaching the youth champions of tomorrow. but certainly we will see them in later Olympic Games. And I hope now is a golden time for female participation. If you look at the two-person, I'm glad I said that right, two-person classes, you'll see that we not only have a female class, but it's a female class and a mixed class, and we have that in both the skiff, which is the 29er, as well as the 420. So that's the little sister of the 470 and the little sister of the 49er respectively. So I think this is an amazing competition. I'm happy to be a part of it, and if you haven't managed to see the live feeds, I would really encourage you to try and have a look, and you can just see all the different classes showcased. That's it for me, and hopefully I'll be back in time to see the show on Friday after the closing ceremony.
What a great setup, and I've been there a couple, 3 times in various places on the lake, and I think it was a Youth Worlds there when I was on the jury, or maybe chairman of the jury, I don't remember, but we also did a Women's Worlds there. And it's a fascinating wind setup because you do have that northerly that blows out of the Alps in the morning.
And then goes.
And then it blows, or it comes around and blows out of the south, the sea breeze that comes
Right.
in the afternoon. And there's a convergence in the middle. And sometimes the race committee will try to start a race in one or the other, even though they're saying, well, we'll try to get it off and see if this lasts, if it persists, or if it dies. So, yeah, I think, Blake, that was Lily doing the camera work. She's there, and the two of them are doing the commentary for this event, for the Youth Worlds. And I don't know if John really intended to do that when he got there. Maybe he's emceeing. John's on here, isn't he? John attacked by a dog. I don't know if John, maybe he's emceeing the closing ceremony tonight as well. I know he ended up emceeing, or at least in part, the opening ceremony. But this Youth Worlds, it's now over. The closing ceremony is tonight. We'll cover this if I have a chance on Tuesday. We'll get into some of this. But John and Lily, I listened to it again this morning. Fabulous job, Julia, of the two of them. I mean, I really think if any regatta needs, but here you go. You got the whole thing. Somebody will do social media, will come on and talk to croutons like us from wherever in the world they are. The two of them can do the show then in 2 of the most popular languages, in Chinese and English, and it's
They're really set up to do that. It's great.
It is great indeed. So that's our coaching corner for today. Julie, you want to do the outro? Read the slide.
Yes, well, we have to thank John Emmett for
John Emmett Sailing. Get to the front of the fleet. There you go.
Yeah. All right.
And of course, we want to thank Andy Rose again too, don't we?
Yes, indeed. He's looking slim and trim and gorgeous there.
He is. He is. Well, I'll check in on him, see how he's doing when I get down there.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I don't know how I'm going to survive down there next week being a teetotaler. Huh? Well, that group likes to have fun after the work's done in the evening, not during the day, but, after it's done. So we'll see. Speaking of the Olympics, let's take a look. It's 7 days. The opening ceremony is 7 days from today. It's next Friday night is the opening ceremony, as we have been saying. And it is, we'll see in Paris how it goes. They've got the opening ceremony on the river, and then they've got the triathlon on the river. Opening ceremony next Friday. Sailing down in Marseille gets underway on Sunday. I'll show you that graphic again in a moment that I put up, and it was a very popular graphic. Thank you for the several comments, many comments, actually. I put it up on my Facebook page, too, so those of you who wanted to grab that and for your own purposes. But this, Julia.
Yes.
You know who that is? You reckon?
Yes.
Who is it?
The president of France.
No.
No. Mayor.
The mayor.
Paris.
She dipped into the Seine.
Oh, that's
How do you
right.
say it? Seine or Seine?
It depends on who you are.
Well, if you're a croutonic
I think
American,
Seine.
Seine, right? To try to pronounce things in France, in French, if possible.
Yeah.
She hopped in to showcase its improved cleanliness before the Olympic events, and apparently, according to the AP report, she backstroked for 50 meters, and then she did the breaststroke for 50 meters and called it a day. Probably she had a prophylactic shot ahead of time, and she probably had another one after she got out. They must be in the Seine, Graham Sweeney is saying. Why Marseille, not here? Good question, David. I don't know. And, you know, there's any number of those towns.
Accommodations.
But no, I don't think it's accommodations, Julie. You know what it is? It's political.
Well, why not?
It's you got to spread the Olympic gold, meaning
Yes, I think that's right.
around, and Marseille down on the coast said, we want an event. You got to take care of that socialist crowd down there. And, you know, it's not a bad place to sail. As I said, we sailed there for the, Hamish Ross reminded me the other day, in the lead up to the '07 Cup. It was, I think, the first of those America's Cup events. Politicians are clowns in every country, Ed Burley is saying. Well, I don't blame her. I think this was a cool move because apparently the river is reasonably clean now.
Yeah.
One can only hope, because the triathlon is going to use the river as part of the the three events that make up the triathlon.
The pictures of the all the flotilla of the opening parade sounds like it's going to be great.
It should be. And let's just hope they can secure it, because the security issues are what are troubling some people. Here is another one of these world sailing videos that we've been playing that describe our sport and the one of the 10 Olympic disciplines, 2 classes actually, 2 events of the 10. And here I think you'll enjoy this look.
Men's and women's kite is a brand new event that will be making waves at the Paris Olympics. Singapore's Max Mader and Daniela Moroz of the USA tell us all about what will be the fastest sport at the Summer Games.
The Formula Kite class is a new class in Olympic sailing where you are propelled by a kite, which is your sail in the air, and a board with a hydrofoil attached to it.
It's fast-paced racing, it's really intense, it's super exciting to watch, and it's actually the fastest summer Olympic sport, so it's a really great addition to the Games. In the Formula Kite class, the women and the men are riding the same exact gear.
Depending on the wind speed, you'll use a 23-meter square kite for light winds, a 15-meter square kite for moderate winds, and an 11-meter square kite for the strongest of winds.
And then the last piece is the hydrofoil, and that's what allows us to fly above the surface of the water. Often around the course, we'll be doing 3 times the wind speed.
The main strength of Formula Kite athletes is their legs. We do 4 races a day, each around 12 minutes long, which take a toll on your body when you have to basically squat for 48 minutes a day.
Not only are you pushing super hard physically, but you're also playing a chess game in your head against your competitor, so there's also a big strategic game happening at the same time.
At the Olympic Games, there'll be 20 riders from 20 different nations competing in the Formula Kite class. After qualifying, half of them will be eliminated.
Then on the final day, it's the medal series, and the top 10 get seeded, and it's all about winning races and continuing on into the next round.
Then 4 of the best riders fight for the medals. It really makes for intense, tight, and exciting racing in the final.
Marseille is a really cool venue. We can have a really light wind sea breeze, or we can have the famous super strong 25-knot Mistral. So as a competitor, you have to be good in all of those different conditions.
For medal contenders, my personal picks would be Axel Mazella from France, Tony Vodisek from Slovenia, and I myself as well.
The French are going to be really strong on their home waters, and then the Brits also have a really strong squad. So it's going to be tight between the French and the Brits and me. So let's go.
Okay, so we know Daniela, and we wish her the best.
Absolutely.
And she's going to struggle against those French ladies, I'm sure. It was one French lady. She's had some trouble against the French because in previous events where more than one person per country is allowed, the French have been very tough, more than one. I want to meet this kid, Max Mader. He's from Singapore.
Yeah.
And he's obviously Asian, but very bright, and in that English civil culture
Right.
of Singapore, pro-business, pro-freedom, pro-libertarian type culture that I like.
Yes.
You can just see the kid is alive and bright, and as is Daniela, who's a little more California cool and kind of laid back. And I thought that was one of World Sailing's best
It was very good.
videos ever.
It was very good.
Nice music,
Yep.
well edited, a back and forth between the two, so it wasn't just one or the other. Somebody did a good job on that. Gordon Smith, who's joined us. Hi, Gordon. Joining us from Denmark, presumably. I simply love the breadth and depth of our sport. I like the young people. I like the kids we're going to see next week at GovCup. I think these two are great representatives and future representatives. As Graham Sweeney said, I don't know what their knees and hips are going to be like. Huh, Julia?
I know.
In a few years.
Well, they may surprise us and be really strong.
Well, they're going to be strong, but how worn out are they going to be is you worry. I mean, we do, it's like the windsurfers. I don't know if you remember this. The windsurfers, back in the day, the windsurfers, their forearms got so big. I'm not putting my hands up if Gruber or whoever it was. The windsurfers' forearms got so big that they had the muscles were getting so big they had to literally go in and surgically open up the sheath of the muscles.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not kidding. This was some of you on here will know more about it than I. Peter Taylor saying maybe we a good orthopedic sponsor like Disc. Yeah, who's one of our sponsors for GovCup. Another favorite, as we've been saying, is Maddie Wern from Australia. And Olivia, we hope our FOSI Olivia Price is also, and I redid this slide with Olivia in the background, but didn't have time to pull that one up. But the 2020 Olympic gold medalist in the ILCA class, the laser, Matt Wern from Australia, is the odds-on favorite to repeat. And here is the schedule, as you Aussies, Kiwis, Brits would say. Its racing starts on Sunday the 28th, opening ceremony on the 26th, racing the 28th, and that's the first crop, those first 4 days, and then the medal races. Then the second crop actually starts during the medal races on August 1st and 2nd. So you've got the windsurfing, men's and women's. You got the skiff, which is the 49er, men's and women's. And you got the men's and women's dinghy, which are the ILCAs, starting in that first tranche, 28, 29, 30, and 31st, and then their medal races. And then the other series, the mixed dinghy starts. That means the 470, which is co-ed, men and women. And also the opening series for the women's and men's dinghy, which is, that's the ILCA. And they get going, the ILCA's in the second tranche. I misspoke. So that's what's going on in that first half, if you will. Then in the second half, the ILCAs continue, the multi-hull, which is the Knacker 17, the mixed dinghy, which is the 470, and then the kites wrap up. And guess who has the final high visibility day on the 8th, the only discipline with medal races on the final day, the 8th of August, the kites. So that is, you don't have to take a picture of it, Julia, because it's up on my face. You can go ahead, by all means, but it's up on my Facebook page.
I know. It's easier to get off my line.
I know. And the forearm issue was called, we got Tom Pace on here,
good.
past Commodore of Pensacola Yacht Club. Good to see Tom on here. He is one of my favorite characters from the Gulf, and a good sailor and a great contributor to our sport, Commodore Pace. The forearm issue was called compartmental syndrome. Bay Area racer Teddy Huang had challenges with this in his Olympic campaign. David James echoing that. If memory serves, Teddy Huang was on the same Stanford sailing team as Brady C, so a pretty good vintage.
Aha.
Speaking like a connoisseur of fine wines.
Yes.
That David James is. Okay,
Yes.
That's our Olympic segment. I'm going to be busy next week with GovCup, and then we got the Olympics the following 2 weeks. So we'll probably get into Olympic coverage in earnest after GovCup next, which ends on Saturday. And of course, racing starts for the Olympics next Sunday. So we probably won't do much preview work on that more than what we've already done. Maybe I'll find another one of those World Sailing videos and run it.
I still have to congratulate.
Whoa, go ahead.
Congratulate you on putting that chart together from.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of it was so frustrating because I could not find a chart. And as I said on the show on Tuesday, the best website I've seen for the Olympics is not the French Olympic website. It's not the IOC's website. It's the NBC Sports website. And it's not just for our sport, but for all the sports.
Yeah.
And it's from whence?
From whence?
From whence.
Yeah.
I wish Andy were here. He'd be proud of me. I'm simple Michigander.
Oh, yes.
Coming up with a word like whence.
Yes.
Not to be confused with wench.
Or maybe to be confused.
Or winch. Julia, what happened on this day in history, the 19th of July, 1843?
Oh, gosh, 1843.
Here's your first and only clue. See if any of the Brits know this. 1843, so around about the same time as the first America's Cup, 8 years before. This boat didn't last very long, by the way. The first Tour de France finished on this day in 1903. Ted Ryman, ding, ding, ding. Ted Ryman gets the applause. And it is the launch of the SS Great Britain. Graham Sweeney, it's not the Eastern, it was the Great Britain. Gordon Smith also got it. Stingray thinks somebody invented chess. No, Stingray, chess was invented back in this like 700 AD.
Yeah.
But they had the tournament in 1851, as we saw at the top of the show.
Right.
Designed by Britain's greatest industrial engineer, at least up to that point, Isambard, is that how you pronounce that? Kingdom Brunel. What a name. What a name. I'm going to name my next dog or cat that. The SS Great Britain was launched in 1843 as the first iron ship to service a transatlantic route. When built, the SS Great Britain was the largest and the longest passenger ship at fully 322 feet, almost 100 meters, in service. She had both masts for sail and a huge boiler for a two-cylinder engine. I mean, a two-cylinder, and it had a huge boiler. I've seen cross-sections of the boat when I was preparing it. She was launched from the Bristol dry dock. It was actually just kind of a float. And it is there she returned 127 years later in 1970, where she has been restored and turned into a museum, a lovely museum. And do you know where she was? 1851, she got kind of turned for scrap, and then somebody bought her and rebuilt her and started to use her on some kind of an Atlantic service. You know where she ended up?
No.
As a coal bin in the Falklands.
Oh.
And then somebody who was some philanthropist in the UK said, we can't have this, and brought the thing back and kind of restored it. Now I think they've got it rebuilt in Bristol. 2 giant cylinders, I bet. And Gordon Smith, yes, it had a screw propeller. And remember, in those days, here I'm going to get accused of waving my arms again, but in those days, most of those ships had, they still had the
paddle wheels.
Paddle wheels on the side wheelers. Propellers, not paddle wheels. That was the innovation. Well, the fact that it was so big and that it was steel. I think those are all. Thank you, David James and Graham. She is still at Bristol and returned from Graham Sweeney's got it from the Falklands. Another piece of intensely, excruciatingly important information, Julia.
Yes, indeed.
That you learn only on Sailing Illustrated in our regular.
And which you can use for any
Oh,
cocktail
look at that.
party.
That's an interesting shot. Yeah, you can use it any what? Cocktail party.
Yeah.
You can use it at the bar at the St. Francis Yacht Club or your home yacht clubs. SS Great Britain launched in Bristol on this day in history. 1943, was it? I think it was 43. 1843. 1843, Julia. 1843. That gets us to our very brief, but I think kind of cool America's Cup segment today with Mr. Dalton holding the cup, our AC-37 cup date. Ed Worley agrees it's good bar trivia.
Yep.
Do you know who is on the U.S. youth team? We've talked about the Australian women's team. Now we're going to talk about the U.S. youth team. It has been revealed yesterday that the Youth America's Cup team, sponsored by American Magic and New York Yacht Club, has those gentlemen on the team. There's also a women's team we'll talk about in due course. They have been revealed. They've got their arms crossed
Oh, yes.
in the classic, I'm really tough, although, look at their faces.
Yeah.
A couple of them have got a smile like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm just kind of a relaxed. Look at Kyle on the left. Look at Harry Melgus has got a bit of a smile. Ripley Shelley looks like he's trying to smile. My favorite is Ben Rosenberg, the redhead, third from the left. I know Ben well, or I know his parents well. I've met Ben. Ben, I think, has been on the show. I think we've had Ben on the show. I have to ask his dad. So 3 of them are from Lake Geneva, as Blake Middleton is pointing out in the comments. New York Yacht Club's American Magic has confirmed the youth team will represent the U.S. at the 2024 Youth America's Cup. The lineup will compete against 11 other nations on September 17 to 26 in Barcelona, based in Badalona. Is that a typo or is that a town that I've never heard of? For the next 2 months, the New York Yacht Club American Magic, it's not my typo, if it is, that came right out of the release. The New York Yacht Club American Magic youth team has begun intensive training on the AC-40, marking a significant milestone in their preps for the upcoming Youth America's Cup. The team is taking advantage of excellent sailing conditions with winds ranging from 5 to 20
Wow.
and sea states from 0.3 to 1.3 meters. These conditions are fantastic for learning the boats and training, said Terry Hutchinson. All the sailors have sailed on the AC-40 and will continue race training over the coming weeks. T. Hutch concluded. Yeah, the standard ACPR stance, Ed Worley. Again, the 7 sailors selected are Severin Graham from Delray Beach down in Florida, Ian McDermott, Miami Beach, Harry Melgus, the what, the 4th, the 5th? Whatever he is.
Yeah.
Fontana, Wisconsin. Kyle Navin. Is it Navin? Am I pronouncing that right? Blake Middleton will know. From Fontana, Wisconsin, which is another lake. Those both Harry and Kyle are Lake Geneva boys. Ben Rosenberg from East Greenwich. From Rhode Island. Finn Rowe, also from Fontana. And Ripley Shelley, another Floridian. Will the AC-40s be allowed to use the autopilot controllers? I do not know. There is Vice Commodore Claire Harrington. That is Harry Melgus, the fourth H4. Thank you very much. And guess, Julia, where the Vice Commodore is? She's on a secret mission in Barcelona.
Is she?
She won't tell me what she's doing, but she all of a sudden said, I'm headed to Barcelona, kind of at the last minute. I'm missing the rest of New York Yacht Club's race week. So whatever she is doing, I have a pretty good idea what she's doing, but I'm not allowed to say.
Well.
And she didn't tell me.
No.
She is over there on an important mission. So
I'm
one
sure
hears.
she is, and we'll hear about it in good time.
In good time, in due course. I want to go with the format. I also, you know me, I like to give you the good oil, as the Kiwis would say, or the Aussies might say it as well. But the way, this courtesy of Scuttlebutt, but this graphic is on the America's Cup website. And I'll post this as well. The way this works, there are the 2, 4, 6 times 2, 12 teams in 2 pools, Pool A and Pool B. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
What is the water in Fontana, Wisconsin? Lake Geneva, David James. The Lake Geneva Yacht Club, home of Buddy Melgus and many other fine sailors, scow and otherwise. Those 8 teams race in fleet racing in their respective pools. Then the top 6 go to a final fleet racing series of 3 to 4 races, weather permitting. And then the final 2 from those 6 matriculate. Julia?
Yes.
Isn't that a good Stanford word?
Perfect.
Matriculate to a match race final. A single match race, taking, if I dare say, a page from Sail GP, a single match race. I wonder if they'll report the wind strengths in knots or in meters per second.
Feet.
Or miles per hour.
Yeah.
Or some other. It'll be in knots. I guarantee you, the America's Cup would not sink that low. Steve Gruber, who is in the know on most of this stuff, says that they will be using the autopilots. From what I understand, the autopilots were created specifically for the ladies and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe Claire can, maybe Vice Commodore Harrington can chime in if she knows, and maybe sitting next to somebody who will know and she can chime in. Knots! Matriculate is a fairly complex word for a public school boy, David James says. Yes, well, it's when you hang out, David, with people like you and Julia and Andrew, you Stanfordites, and some of you who went to Harvard, and some of you who went to Yale, even a blind, as my dad said, even a blind pig finds an acorn or a turnip or whatever it is blind pigs find. Clark Chapin says the English unit of velocity furlongs per fortnight. Huh?
Oh.
That's the format. Fleet racing in 2 pools, fleet racing among the top 6, and then a final winner-take-all match race after all of that fleet racing.
Which is expected to last how long?
A week-ish. 4 days, in fact.
For all of that?
For both the women's and the youth. The youth and women's AC fleet match format. For the women's, it starts, the qualifying starts 17 to 21. That's 4 days. And then the 22nd is the final series. And I had it right. It's about a week. And then the match race final on the 26th. That's for the youth. And then the women's qualifying starts October 5 to 9 with the final series on the 11th and the final match race on the 13th. Graham Sweeney says the pig probably went blind from over matriculating. Graham, he went to the doctor and asked the doctor if he could, if it was harmful to matriculate, and the doctor said, well, if you do, you're going to go blind. You know the joke? Matriculating. And that pig said, well, in that case, I'll just do it till I need glasses.
Oh.
Well played, David James is saying to Graham. And I'm going to put this slide up after that Crutonic joke. I'll put this slide up. This superb slide up. It's also posted on my Facebook page after the acclaim it was given during the last show and after. And thanks again to cuplegend.com for putting this together. I don't know Sorlet. I think he's French. I'm not sure. Is that a French name? I don't know. I don't know the gentleman or the lady. Could be a lady as well. First initial L. From cuplegend.com. And what I am told is a highly accurate, I've run this by a couple of the techies, that is a highly accurate depiction. How's that for a word, Julia?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Huh?
Beautiful.
It's from hanging around with you and Andrew. Andy Rose. And finally, in our America's Cup segment, it would be remiss of me not to point out the book back here by the magnificent Magnus Wheatley. And there is no second. That book is on sale at Amazon and other fine booksellers, such as in Cow, such as in the America's Cup, whatever it's called, the Merchandise Center there in Barcelona. And Julia, are you going to give us a book report, I guess, after Gov Cup?
Yes.
Okay. Alistair Murray said I saw it online as well, he says he likes American Magic. It looks to him the fastest and sleekest.
That'd be good.
Do you agree? American Magic is second from the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's the bow is scow-like, as we've said.
Yes.
And it is also, as you can see, very low freeboard, low windage forward compared to the other boats.
Yes.
And it's fairly low freeboard, fairly sleek in the, I'll use a Michigan word, in the bum.
Yeah.
I cleaned that up, you see.
Yes. Oh,
I didn't say ass end. I was inclined to. And look at how much windage there is on the Brit boat, which is why a lot of people are not amused. They said the same thing about the Titanic. Way less frontal area on American Magic. Yes, Clark Chapin, agreed. Very nice graphic AC 75 comparison. Ed Worley is confirming. Stingray is saying the Trump sailors like the whole drill, baby, drill race maneuver. Okay. I'm enjoying. I've practically finished this book up. I'll probably finish it on the plane Sunday on the way down to Balboa Yacht Club to John Wayne Airport,
Yes.
better known as SNA, Santa Ana. I hope the flights are not croutotic, as they have been today.
Yes.
Got it. Get it. Magnus Wheatley's There Is No Second. Finally, speaking of New York Yacht Club, they are hosting the race week is wrapping up, and the signature, maybe not the signature event, the IC37s are racing, but so are the TP52s are having their World Championship, and here is their video, not from today, but it was very light today. I don't know if they got any racing, and one of you will probably know, but here is a summary of their racing from yesterday in the TP52 Worlds.
So day number 3 here in Newport, Rhode Island at the Rolex TP52 World Championship. It's a big day here. It's the midpoint of the World Championship. It's also the midpoint of the 2024 season. In the season standings, well, it's really finely balanced at the top of the table as we expect it to stay all the way through to the grand finale in Valencia. And for the World Championship, well, it's Gladiator on top by 4 points. They've had 3 back-to-back wins. They've never won the World Championship, but as in both cases, consistency is the key. Well, it's late afternoon before race 5 gets underway. The breeze is at 255 degrees, about 6 to 7 knots, a 1.5 mile upwind leg, and off the start line will Platoon Aviation start at the committee boat end of the line, go out to the right. Meantime, Gladiator going off the left end of the line. This time the right side pays with a little bit of a wind shift, a little bit more extra pressure. And the top mark, Platoon Aviation, Harmler Spear leading comfortably from Allegri round in second, and Sled third. Down the run, no changes. So nice, comfortable race win for Platoon Aviation, a real confidence builder for the world champions. Allegri come through in second, keeping on the pressure. So too, Sled in third.
It's an important one because after yesterday we were in a bad situation. Now we are not a lot better, but at least we have some chance, let's say. And we were not zero yesterday, we are not zero today. It's just a matter to keep pushing hard and try to make the next 5 regattas properly.
One of these days that you have many forecasts and no one was really right. So we went to the basic at the end, and we need to keep focused and do our job, and then we see.
So Rolex TP52 World Championship after 5 races, Gladiator still leading on 17 points. Allegri close up to 1 point behind on 18, and Sled in third on 22 points. So a long wait today, but it was well worth it. Just 1 race, a good win for Platoon Aviation, but still at the top of the World Championship standings are Gladiator and Allegri pushing all the time. Plan is for 3 races tomorrow. Join us then.
Yeah, and I don't know if they got any races. When I looked at the live coverage, and it's been superb. Andy Rice is out of the water. He's got a lady with him, but I don't know if, they got around the course without foils or computers or autopilots. You're right, David James, and so did Ed Worley said similar, and a lot of you I know share that sentiment. Great monohull racing, the pros, the AMs. It's just turned into, it's been for 15 plus years, a terrific event, class,
And they look beautiful.
feature of our sport. And yes, indeed, Julie, they are beautiful, aren't they? The last leg gets us to the last leg, and we just want to say to Clark Chapin, who's been helping me gather the info on this event, it starts tomorrow. 334 boats have lined up for the 100th Bayview Yacht Club, the Detroit to Mackinac race. It starts up in Lake Huron at Port Huron, and they go all the way up to Mackinac Island, up between where Lake Michigan comes up one side and Lake Huron comes up the other. They just completed the Chicago Mac last weekend, and new record in that race. We'll get back to that at some point, but this event is turning into a big deal. Charlie Trost of Grosse Pointe Woods, this year's race chairman, said this event will have a bit of everything and a lot of surprises. Quote, people are coming out of the woodwork, whether it's the weekend warrior or a professional racer, Trost told the Detroit Free Press. Quote, a lot of people are interested whether the accomplishment is getting from point A to point B or the goal is doing whatever it takes to win first place. I think that is the best sentence I've read in a press release about, our sport, about recreational sailing and highly competitive sailing as well, in a long time. Charlie Trost, congratulations for that. That was really nice. Speaking of him, there he is with his young family, his wife and kids. He's only 35, and he's the regatta chair.
Good for
the
him.
race chair. He'll sail his 22nd at age 35. Race up to Mackinac. Now, maybe he's done some Chicago Macs too, so he's done two in a year, maybe. On the J130 sailboat known as Pendragon, he follows in the footsteps of his father and grandfather. Let's say it was all on the same boat, or this, just the Chicago, just the Detroit, the Bayview Mac. He's done 22, and he's 35, so I guess, you don't have to be a Stanford grad to figure that he'd been doing it every year since he was 13 if he's doing one per year, right?
Yep.
Of course, it helps to be a Stanford grad, though.
No.
Helps to be a Stanford grad. He's hoping one day that his 1- and 3-year-old sons will race. The whole family will be on the island, which is mostly sold out for this event. Those of you who've never been to Mackinac Island, it's a fabulous place.
It is.
And during the Mac races, when they finish up there, whether it's the Chicago or the Detroit Mac, the Bayview Mac, it's a hoot and a holler and more up there, and it's party central. Especially, we had a live
a
couple 3 years ago during the pandemic, because this race got run. Bravo Zulu to Bayview Yacht Club, they managed to run this at the height of COVID in 2020, and I think that's when we had a live remote from the Commodore, didn't we? From that huge front porch.
Yes. I actually.
Of the hotel.
Yeah.
Of the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island.
Yeah.
So good stuff. And Bravo Zulu to them and to Bayview Yacht Club on their 100th anniversary of the Bayview Mac. Starting tomorrow. Comment, so proud of New York Yacht Club on both sides of the pond. Indeed, Commodore Harrington, and she sent through some photos this morning. I didn't have time to ask her if I could use them or not, but she is in Barcelona. In fact, while I slept the other night, she told me she was going, and I kind of went to sleep. When I woke up, she was there. And then I remember flying from New York to Barcelona nonstop, and those back in the day, you could fly on TWA nonstop, and it's not that long a flight. From the East Coast, it's only 6, 7, maybe 8 hours total. Claire will tell us. Vice Commodore Harrington. Steve Gruber saying the trimmers are looking at real-time sail shape and analysis, and let's not even mention the instrumentation. Good point. Lots of great comments today, as usual. Ted Ryman summing it up by saying all sailing is cool. And I think we'd agree, right, Julia?
Absolutely.
We're 2 hours and 12 minutes into this one, gets us to the D block. We have some funnies for you, Julia.
Yes.
We do have some funnies for you. Speaking of kilometers per hour, Sail GP proudly put this out. Just was an image on their, I guess on one of their social media. It may have been on their main website. And several people sent it through to me, and the comments started flowing. Mark Reed said, hope to see all the teams. This is not relevant to the kilometers per hour, but I thought his comment was good, so I ran it. Hope to see all the teams, plus the new ones for Season 5, maybe supported teams, can partner and create a world team. I thought that was a good idea. Maybe people from countries that are not otherwise supported by a sponsor, by an owner, you could pool them together and call it the world team. And maybe Nathan's on that team, and maybe if Phil Robertson gets knocked out because the Canadians don't have a team. I thought, Mark Reed, somebody's thinking, creating. Okay, I like it. You like it, Julia?
Yes.
You do. Okay, the next comment, the rest relate to this ridiculous Crutonic kilometer per hour. You mean 55.64 knots? Yes, Graham Sweeney. And to sailors, that's way more relevant because they have, this is with the new T-foils. They're T-foil testing here after this last regatta. And breaking the 50-knot barrier and repeatedly and easily without cavitation and yada yada. Bravo Zulu to them. Mike Nash, for us sailors out here, how many knots is that? Oh, Graham Sweeney answered it. Mm-hmm. Jeff Kalusian, same thing. What is that in knots? Come on, Sail GP. Get with it. Get with it. Speaking of with it, I had to note in the funnies here.
No.
I've showed this to some of my Brit friends. I asked some of our Brit foes. He said, is it okay if I run this? This was sent to me by a Brit.
Uh-huh.
And I showed it to Lucy last night at the bar. I went after my Stag Cruise meeting.
Right.
And she said, oh, I think it's hilarious. She said, she knows His Majesty and Queen Camilla. And she said, I think he will think this is hilarious. I don't know. I didn't ask him. King Charles has canceled his next trip to America for fear he might be an easy target.
That's good.
Huh?
That's a good one.
Is it?
Mm.
How about this one? Now, all these people, as the Republican National Convention, the RNC, wrapped up last night, so they all started wearing these little pillow, what do you
ear
call
patches.
it? Well, they're ear patches. They're pillow, what do you call those? Bandages, right? Pillow Band-Aids, bandages on their ears, because, of course, Trump has got one on his, not his right ear, but his,
Yes.
well, it is his right ear,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
We're not going to make it, are we? Humans, I mean. I mean, they do, okay, I understand, but they did look a little ridiculous, I thought. Didn't you think?
Yep. But it was an expression.
Graham Sweeney said it looks like sanitary products. Yeah, David James, there was a 72 version of the TP-52, and Hap Fouth had one, and that class just really never took off because I guess the sheer expense. Ed Worley saying crutonic, politicians are crutonic. Okay, or insanitary products. Ted Ryman sent that through. Why would you be surprised?
No.
Julia, here's one. Reminds me of the poster down in the guest room here.
Uh-huh.
Remember that?
Yeah.
You put that's a poster like the one you have downstairs where there's some old guy in a raincoat exposing himself, and the caption on that, you remember it? It's down there in your guest room.
Yes.
And it says, expose yourself to art. And
That's
he's
exactly right.
flashing like the Mona Lisa or something. I can't remember what's in the background. Back in the day, I would look, but not now. I hear your willy is even bigger than, I hear you. Her willy is even bigger than mine. Guess who sent that? Ted Ryman.
Oh, I was going to say, it sounds like Ted Ryman.
It is.
Yeah.
Another sign of the time. Speaking of signs of the time, Julia, now that I've invented it, that must be Alexander Graham Bell, I have this odd compulsion to hold it in my hand wherever I go and glance at it incessantly.
Of course.
And I saved that for the end because when Julia got down here, she'd forgotten her phone upstairs, and I had to go upstairs and get her phone.
That's because I had an hour to kill.
A half an hour at most. But even Julia can't be without her phone. And of course, she used it during the show, too. But look at this. We had to move it, that don't walk sign, to where people would see it.
That's not a bad idea.
It is astonishing how many people walk around like
I
that
know.
these days. And you know what, to me, what maddens me more than anything? And okay, I'm not guilty of this. When you're trying to find a parking place on Chestnut Street,
Yeah.
down here where I go every Thursday, I go down and get my hair cut and, well, not every Thursday, but go do a little shopping and have a bun and a coffee at the roastery. People come out, they get into their car, you can tell they're about to leave, and then they get on their damn phone. And they sit there
Right.
while you're behind them one car length, waiting for them to pull out so you can grab that car space. I
Yes.
got to have that space. And they sit there and do their,
Yeah, because they can't do it while they're driving.
well, they could do it before they got in the bloody car. Drives me nuts. In any event. Finally, speaking of the phone, when she goes through your phone and all she sees are sailboat photos. Several people sent that. It's been around for a while. I thought that was great. One we hope is not going to be around for much longer. As soon as the Olympics are over, the non-sailing CEO has got to go. Drink, drink, drink.
Yeah.
Those of you down under, cancel him at U.S. Sailing, please. The sooner the better. But with that, we get to the finish line. Julia, you're a witness.
Please like, follow, and share, especially in anybody who's interested in youth sailing. There's lots of good stuff.
It was a good youth sailing show, wasn't it?
Yes.
And Olympics.
Yes.
John Emmett and Lily.
And Lily, yes.
Over at Lake Garda. Beautiful Lake Garda. If you've never been to Mackinac, you've never been to Garda, if you've never been to Newport Beach, these are garden spots in the
Yes,
world.
absolutely.
Especially for our sport, right? You would agree. Comments are welcome, even in replay. Most of you do watch it in replay. We appreciate those of you who come online because it's the comments that really make it fun for us. It's the FOSI for whom we do this. Let natural selection do its job. The people walking around with their heads down on their phone. Julia, final thoughts?
No, I enjoyed today's program. I learned a lot.
2 hours and 20 minutes. I thought it was going to be a short one. Well, with
I know better than that.
Yeah. Whenever I say it's going to be a short show, it ends up being more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
Why do pirates hide their gold only 6 inches deep? Because booty is only shin deep. Ted Ryman, great show. It's always cool when Andy Rose is aboard. Indeed, Clark Chapin, they're waiting for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto to boot up so they know how to get to their next destination. I don't think so, Clark. I can see them on their damn phone. We, however, always appreciate, unlike the non-sailing CEO, we appreciate all of you who watch the show. Because it's for you. We do it. We get a great kick out of your comments and your comments after the show and the emails and back and forth.
Right.
And we appreciate very much. We hope you give us a few bucks on patreon.com. Become a patron if you would, please. And thanks to everybody who gave us audio, video, and images for today's show. Julia, we will not see you Tuesday because I'm leaving on Sunday, and I'll have Christine Gribben as my guest on Sunday. But you will be commenting, we'll be texting and talking back and forth. Thank you for all you do. Have a good, safe week.
Yes.
Sorry you're not going with us.
So am I.
I know, but it'd be tough to move you. You've never been down there for Gov Cup either, have you?
Mm-mm. I've been down there in previous years.
One of these years.
Yeah.
One of these years. We will be live Monday night at 8 o'clock for the first of 10 shows from Balboa Yacht Club and Out on the Water. 10 shows next week for Gov Cup, ending with the press conference and awards, 5 o'clock Saturday night. I hope you can join us for any or all of those live or in replay. In the meantime, have a great weekend. See you next Monday night. We'll see you on the show Tuesday. And wherever you are, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao. For now.